There we go. What up, what up, what up, everybody? Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody in the room. We got people in the room already. Coop, how you doing today on this Wednesday?
Happy New Year, first show of the year.
Yeah, and my camera's frozen. All right.
Correct.
We're gonna get this worked out.
And that's how it started.
Yeah, that's how it starts. Technical issues off
Oh,
top.
good.
Happy 2023 to everybody. How'd you spend your new year?
I went to see my pops.
Okay.
Me and my brother, and the homie Sherm. You know Sherm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to see my pops, and I picked up bro. I got some more black dad gang gear, as you can see. These
Okay.
hoodies, super fly. Yeah.
Camera
People
went
need
out
to get
again.
me about those. I got a whole fleet of these. Um,
What link can people go to get them?
I'll put the name of my of the IG up in the chat, and people can go get the Black Dad Gang from there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, but it's super dope. I mean, it's comfortable. I mean, I told fam, I was like, this feels like my Armani Exchange, like my polo stuff, like quality wise.
I love it. It looks good. It looks like it's
No,
comfortable. Yeah.
I was on Peachtree today, and people was like rolling down the window, like, yo, like what's who? Yeah, so it's like that, and it feels that way too. Like this is already my favorite hoodie. It's my first time putting it on. I was like, it's super comfortable. But me and bro slid to Sherm's house and watched some football,
Yeah.
and then we slid over to Pebbles family's house, and Pebbles family and Pebbles. I already told you about Pebs, man. It's a celebration for all. So we had a good time, and
Nice.
I was designated driver and, dropped everybody but back off and came home and bought in the new year that way. Blessed to be here. We got a lot going on. We got a lot to do. We have a lot to discuss today as usual.
Yes, we
So,
do. JY with the super chat says, Happy New Year to the A2HH family. 2023 is going to be a big year for y'all. Number one in the game. I'm super excited as well for the De La Soul discography to be available on streaming. Also haven't listened to, as I haven't listened to it yet. Yeah, listen, I'm looking forward to that too. I've been waiting on De La Soul to be available for a minute. I think you and I have had conversations about the fact that I think De La Soul for a certain generation just goes unranked, for lack of a better term, because people don't have access to their material like that.
yeah.
We just got through talking about the greatest hip hop groups of all time. I feel like if you want to talk about a group and a collective, I don't even want to say a collective because a collective can be a lot of things. A
hmm
group that is still together, never broke up, was super consistent with every damn effort, you can't really beat the longevity and the quality and the unity of a De La Soul.
No.
And I know I didn't put up my list, but in my personal opinion, I think that there could be an argument for them to be the greatest hip hop group ever, collectively from end to end. I think they missed maybe some of the hit records that some of the other groups have, or their impact is there, even if people don't acknowledge it. I think a lot of their impact people give Tribe credit for. Even if you look at the skits and the remixes, because I feel like they were the first act to even do remixes. Um, I think the skits too kind of comes down to them. Listening to how Outkast changed with every album and came with themes is way more De La Soul ish than it is Tribe. You know what I'm saying?
I understand all the things that you're saying. And I think that, how about this? I believe it's conversational.
Yeah.
But I think it's just conversational from the sake of having the conversation, because I think really, if you really go beyond the scope of the actual records and albums themselves, which matters a whole
In the
lot. Don't get me
Mountain.
wrong. I mean, we're both big catalog guys, correct?
Right.
Right. So they're up high, mostly about catalog,
Right.
because whether whether it's fair or not, Tribe's impact greater.
Yeah.
NWA, Public Enemy, Wu Tang,
Yeah.
even Outkast. You know, so that's so they're missing on the impact side. And they suffer from some of what, and I like how you made the Outcast comparison, because I know we always make the Tribe comparison with Outcast, but when you look at the hit record thing, because sometimes when we play Outcast stuff against other Titanic groups like a Tribe or a Mobb Deep, the hit records outside of Elevators and Bombs Over Baghdad really sometimes don't measure the way that we would like as big fans of the group, correct?
Right.
I think De La suffers from some of the same thing outside of some records. And so
I think De La, for whatever reason, and obviously because it's Knee Deep, right? I mean, Knee Deep is probably my favorite song ever. You know, if somebody asked me what's my favorite song ever, I might say Parliament
really,
Funkadelic Knee Deep. So I think that the fact that Me, Myself, and I is kind of became like their flagship song over the years, even with all the quality that they've made, it almost feels like, okay, your biggest hit was damn near your first single. But these guys had a lot of great records, like Stakes is High is
I
a
think it,
great song. Ring 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 is my favorite De La Soul song personally. That's actually my favorite single from them.
just because it's your biggest single doesn't make it necessarily your
Yeah,
best single.
it's nowhere near their best single. But I'm saying whenever
Yeah.
they introduce themselves, and for people who don't know their catalog like that, Me, Myself, and I is the one. Like, I even remember hearing Denzel Curry making a Me, Myself, and I De La reference on his recent work. You know what I mean? Um,
No, it's their recognizable record.
it
That would be
is.
the way of putting it. It's their recognizable record. So
Jay Short in
um,
the super chat, man. Jay Short's in the building early. We got a lot to talk about today, man. Jay Short says, not bringing up old topics, but what
you are.
but what the argument for PE not being number one? Peace, fellas. Happy New York. I'm sorry, Happy New Year's. Keep up the great content. I was just gonna say, in my whole De La thing, my personal opinion, if we want to talk about groups, group albums, I don't really count Wu Tang. I count Wu Tang as a group, but if I'm ranking them as the best group of all time, I'm just counting group albums, group songs. I got Public Enemy at number one, but that's just me. I mean,
Based on, I mean, when you're saying that, I mean,
you want to know what I'm
here's,
basing that on?
I mean, you're basing it on you think It Takes a Nation of Millions is greater than Enter the Wu Tang.
I do.
And that's fair, and that's one of the very few albums that can lay claim to that. I think that's a very, very close discussion. B, Wu Tang Forever is better than Public Enemy's Yo Bum Rush to Show Up. Or do you not agree with that?
Is it better than
Fear of a Black
Fear
Planet?
of a Black Planet though? Cause
I think it's better than both.
ain't no fight the powers on Wu Tang Forever.
I mean,
Ain't no Welcome
that's,
to the Terror Domes on Wu Tang Forever. It's not.
that's fair, but I mean, we're talking about an album versus two records.
Nah, it's more than that on that album. Brother's Gonna Work It Out's on that album too. That album's tough.
No, I like Fear, but I like all the PE stuff. It's not that I'm not a fan of it. It's just this is what I mean about the impact. Wu Tang is so transcendent that it's hard for you to qualify them as a group without qualifying some of the solo material because it's so collaborative and it's so made in the spirit of Wu Tang, which sound wise is something unique that we've never heard before.
Same thing for PE.
Like when you look at a record like Guillotine on the Purple Tape, it's like, well, that might be on Ray's album, but that's some Wu-Tang shit, Mike.
I feel you, but I'm trying to be fair here where it's like we're talking about the group. We're talking about the group. Now, if we're talking about, Ray's album, it wouldn't be fair to sit there and give Ray props as an individual for the Purple Tape and the Purple Tape 2, and then give the Wu-Tang props for the album 2. It's either one or two, you know what I'm saying? It's either one of the others project.
No.
It's either
I mean,
a
it's a
Wu-Tang
team effort.
project or
Everybody
it's a Ray
deserves
project.
credit, but that's what I mean about the way that they change. How about this? This is what I mean. Here's just the reality of the matter. They're still the greatest group of all time because they had to change the game because they had so many frontmen.
No, I agree with you. Like,
There's too many frontmen. It's like, no, we have to do something different. We can't just make albums together. That's not going to work. We got like 4, 5, 6, 7 frontmen.
But you know what? You know what we call that, and that's in sports too. That's on paper. Like on paper, yes, but you would also think on paper that Wu-Tang, with that collective and that many talents, they would have given us more than two great albums too as a group, right? If somebody
No.
told you in 1993 that they're gonna max out with two albums as a group, would you believe that?
Yes, because they had so many front men.
Well,
Like, like
Piggy
it's
didn't do
hard for
that.
groups. Hold on, listen. It's hard for groups to stay together when there's one front man.
I agree with
They,
that.
they have Method Man, Old Dirty Bastard, Raekwon, the Jizza, and Ghost,
It's
and
incredible.
Deck. And Deck, those are front men. Deck just released the album last year, has a front man. He's like fifth or sixth in this lineup.
No, I agree. It's an unbelievable dream team of a lineup. But
Yeah.
all
What did
but
New Edition do?
I agree. And you know what? It's funny. I was just watching that New Edition biopic. I think that Wu Tang is definitely the new edition of hip hop. Um,
I was just listening to If It Isn't Love the other day.
I think Can You Stand the Rain is one of the most incredibly written records of its time. Shout out to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. The fact that they were able to utilize everybody on that song and nothing felt cluttered, that's amazing songwriting, and that's being a great group. Now, back to the
It's called
group
composing and
discussion.
arranging too. It's
Of
called
course.
composing and
And
arranging.
understanding that, you know what, I'm gonna have Johnny over here. I'm gonna
Right.
have
Yes.
but
Yes.
Ricky, the fact that they were able to
Get your ass
utilize
over
Ricky
here.
and Ralph and Johnny, it's awesome. You know what I'm saying? So but with that being said, when it comes to the group dynamic, I have to give props to the group dynamic. And when it's time to actually put together a group album, a Public Enemy album, a NWA album, an Outkast album, a Tribe album, what's the end product? And so that's kind of how I'm rating it. It's a little different when you're in a space where it's like, okay, well, this is a Ray album, and everybody else is kind of helping out. That's still group stuff, but like you said, being able to actually compose and arrange and produce all of those individuals at once,
Mhm.
that's the difficulty of the group and having that talent in the group. And I don't think it's fair to judge individual projects with Wu-Tang as a group, if
But
that
you
makes
have
any
to.
sense.
Like, this is what I'm saying about you have to, because it's like, well, when you're listening to a Public Enemy album, you're probably hearing mostly Chuck D's thoughts and everybody spinning off of it. When you're hearing a Tribe album, you're hearing mostly Q-Tip's thoughts, the spin off of it, the Roots, Black thoughts, and the spin off of those things. With Wu-Tang, you have so many ideas and creative processes to spin off of. Well, it's hard to get all of that greatness out. It's hard to manage that team. It's better done in spurts and in separation. And that's why I look at it that way. Like all these guys that you know and love and the way that they're revered, like the way that you love Ghost, if they do what you're talking about, well, Ghost don't become Ghost like that.
I agree. But again, that's the give and take. Like, you're not, it's a sliding scale. Like, obviously, the individuals.
We wouldn't get Iron Man or Supreme.
Yeah, I know. But it's like,
I'll take it like this.
I'm fine with the way things worked out with Wu-Tang, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to give that credence to the group. Now, clearly, if
No, they
we're
deserve
counting
that
all
credence over
those
everybody.
things,
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you that over every hip hop group in history that was created, they actually do deserve that credence, including over Public Enemy. Because Public Enemy got one, maybe two frontmen. We're talking about a group with 5 or 6. They do deserve a different exemption because of that.
well,
Go
again,
get me a collective show me the collective that has even half of that, and you know what I'm saying, and I'll take it
NWA.
away. It's like when the odds are stacked so much that it's like, no, we got to give them that. It's
but
just
no one's ever
blatantly
even
obvious.
attempted that. You know what I'm
And
saying?
you got evidence. You have Liquid Swords. You have the Purple Tape. You have Iron Man. You have Return to the 36 Chambers. You get what I'm saying? It's like there's evidence that they were supposed to do that.
Let me get to the super chat real quick. Blue Collar Hustler, and I want to know what the people in the room think. Do y'all think that Wu-Tang should be counted just for group albums, or do you think that Wu-Tang's overall ranking should be counted with the individual group members' albums as well? Blue Collar Hustler with the super chat says, have you guys heard the rumblings that Outkast might have something cooking this year for the 20th anniversary of Speakerbox Love Below? Check Twitter. Thoughts? Man, ain't nothing happening, man. Ain't nothing happening. Yeah, right. Believe it when I see it. L Boogs with the super chat says, "Happy New Year, Mike." And Coop says, wishing you both and your families all the best in 2023. Sending love from the six. Also, I wanted to take back what I said about Herbert. It's really good. Good. 36 Chambers. I know where he stands on this. He says 3 Feet High and Rising was one of the first full-length albums I ever heard and shaped my love for hip-hop. So glad to see the licensing issue solved. Hopefully it is, man. And hopefully the artists, end up getting what they wanted out of this situation. I mean, just can't fight the machine at the end of the day, man. Like, the streaming platforms are gonna end up having your music one way or another. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, "At what point do we consider something like the Purple Tape a Wu-Tang album rather than a solo effort with multiple Wu-Tang members?" Well, that's the thing. Would you rather consider the Purple Tape Ray's album or Wu-Tang album?
Well, that's the give and the take that some people are going to have to accept. Is that a Ray solo album? This is what I mean about the spinoff. It's on some Wu-Tang shit, but it's Ray's version of some Wu-Tang shit, and everybody is spinning off of Ray on this album.
Is Iron Man an Avengers movie?
Yes, very much that way. That's a great analysis and comparison, Mike. Very much that way. It's like, no, we about to do this Wu-Tang shit. We about to do it like in Ray's like crime mafioso, like mind state type of way and cinematic approach and visual aid to it. That's why Ray's kind of looked at as the glue guy, because they came together so beautifully in his chamber. Like, his chamber's the most beautiful one for them to spin off of and do all their fun rap shit. That's why you get Guillotine and Verbal Intercourse and Wu Gambinos.
He's got some incredible posse cuts on
and Ice Water and Knuckleheads. That's what I'm saying. He's the best spinoff guy. When they get in his chamber, they all spin off so beautifully. It's like, well, you can't take that away from him necessarily.
I mean, because it's hard to compare.
There is Incarcerated Scarfaces and Spot Rushers.
It is.
And Knowledge God.
36
Those
Chambers.
Those are regular records. Those are dope-ass records, Mike.
Incredible records. 36 Chambers with a super chat says, "Wu's group albums and solo albums were damn near the same thing. In my opinion, you should be treated collectively since they're always crossover so many members." So are we going to do that with every group then? Or are we just going to do that with Wu-Tang?
No, I mean, because I look at the Fuji somewhat in that regard, too. It's like, I don't just look at, like, Blunted on Reality and the Score. I do look at like the Carnival kind of like in that vein, and I kind of group the Miseducation, because it has like even the Miseducation, even though it's like Lord's album, it's still little, it's got some. It's got some eclectic Carnival Fuji like vibes.
Vibe wise, yes, I'm with you as far as like the Carnival, but the Carnival was billed in that way. It's Wyclef in the refugee camp, kind of like Puff Daddy and the Family, so it was already kind of built in the sense where it was like, okay, this is an extension of a Fuji album anyway. You know what I mean? And I feel like if we do that with Wu-Tang, then what's stopping us from doing that with NWA? I mean, because again, after listening to Dope Man, I'm like, the best trio ever in hip hop is probably Cube, Dre, and Easy.
Most charismatic.
Name a better trio in hip hop than that.
As far as like in a group?
Period. You know what I mean? That have made music together.
See, this is what I'm saying. So, I mean, I'll take Ray and Ghost and pick a third Wu-Tang member.
Over Dre, Easy, and Cube? You know what you're getting with
together,
that?
Mike. They only made you talking like they made like 30, 40, 50 songs together, Mike. They made like 10, 12 records together.
They made Straight Outta Compton.
I'm very well aware of what records they are.
They made made Easy Does It.
I know the names of the songs. Thank you.
They made Easy Does It. I mean, I'm talking about like
I'm very well aware.
And that's no disrespect to Ren. Because Ren did his part too. Ren really stepped up on Niggas for Life. But if we be real here, the nucleus of that NWA sound in the highest moments is Dre, Cube, and Easy.
But it's only like 10 or 12 songs, Mike.
Well, okay, what trio you got? You got the Wu Tang, Ghost, Ray, and Meth trio because we saw what they were able to do together.
Yeah, or you can insert Jizza, or insert Dead, or insert Kappa. The
Well,
records are there.
I think the best trio out of the Wu Tang, and you're probably gonna disagree, but
I
it's
am.
Kappa, Ray, and Ghost. If we want to talk about a trio that made the best music together, it's Kappa, Ray, and Ghost.
No,
If you
I'm
wanna,
okay with that.
if you want to throw Ray, Ghost, and Meth, okay, they got some dope records together. But as far as chemistry and sounding like a real trio, a real unit, it's Kappa, Ray, and Ghost. Yeah,
I'll give you that because Ice Water is one of my favorite rap songs, like, period. Like,
shit,
just
Ice
on some
Cream.
rap shit.
They got Ice
Water
Cream
is
in
one
their
of my
arsenal.
favorite records, period. Ice Cream,
They got
Daytona 500,
I was just about to
Iron
go.
Maiden.
Yeah,
They're all on Winter Wars together.
yeah.
No, I get what
That's
you're
the
saying.
trio.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But they have the records over a course of time that it's like you're talking about the impact of NWA.
They're not better
what
than.
actually happened.
I love those guys. You know how much I love Ghost and
You're
Kappa.
just talking about
and
Straight
Ray.
Outta Compton, though, Mike. You're essentially talking about one album and some stuff's on Easy's first album.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you're saying that outweighs everybody else.
I can't think of a better trio than Dre, Q, and Easy. I can't. I mean, the Fugees are close,
No, they're
but
not.
I think Clef and Lauren as a
They're-
duo musically. You know what I loved about Prize though, and I think this goes understated, and we don't really see this in hip hop. Period. You actually had somebody who was a businessman that was in the group. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you had the front person in Lauren, you had the arranger, the musician in Clef, and you actually had the businessman in Prize. I mean, you went to business school and everything. Their contracts were straight, and I think that's incredibly important, especially in hip hop, especially with groups. That's something we never seen. And I know we, kind of tongue in cheek when it comes to Prize and his position in the Fugees, but I think Prize is extremely important in the Fugees. Look on the back of the score. It says executive produced by Prizewell. It does.
I'm not about to spend time doing all this.
No, but again, that's part of the trio. Everybody, because again, Easy didn't write, but Easy had I think they're very similar to those in that sense. The front man being Cube / Easy, but Easy's the businessman and Dre is the producer. That's what makes a great trio. I think the
I'm not
trios that
speaking
you're
to the
talking
greatness.
about, they all
not-
just rhyme. You know what I mean?
I'm not speaking to the greatness. I'm speaking to the brevity. That's all.
The brevity of what?
The,
Them as a collective?
brevity of it. I mean, because how about this? When we talk about certain MCs, in their catalogs, we're like, well, they really didn't, they really haven't made enough music on that level for us to solidify putting them in this position. And it's like, now what we heard was brilliant, but you're acting like we heard like 5 to 7 years of it.
I see
It's
what
like,
you're saying. I'm looking at this thing as more of in a vacuum.
in a
Like,
vacuum.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Okay,
again,
so you're talking in a
kinda
vacuum.
like
it's
how
having
we're
lightning in a- Well, if that's the case, yes, because it's like, well, every record they made together slapped. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's kind of like even how
Right.
we're looking at Wu-Tang as like you look at this lineup, there's no way you could put any group above them. You know what I mean? I think the only way to make it fair is to just be like, listen, group albums apply, and where do you put them? And even with the group albums in tow, I got them like third maybe. And you know what I mean? And that's just giving them all kind of strikes off for not even including the solo stuff.
If the group albums are just what's in tow, I mean, I think De La goes up.
Tribe
Public
goes
Enemy
up.
probably goes up. Tribe goes up. See, that's what I'm saying. If you're just counting the group albums,
Outkast
like,
has a
that's
better
what-
group catalog than them too.
right? That's what I'm saying. Well, they actually may slide out of the top 5 even because it's like I could argue that even Mobb Deep has a better group catalog than Wu-Tang. Because
That can be argued.
They have 3 great albums. Wu-Tang only has 2, unless you want to count the double disc, is like, and separated to make it 3.
Nah.
You feel what I'm saying? And then it's conversational. So that's what I mean about doing that catalog thing. And I'm going to tell you something. It's like, you know this and I know this because we lived through it and we're still living through it some today. Ain't no way in hell Wu-Tang's not a top 5 group.
Nah, no way.
And so the fact, and that's what I'm saying about, well, they are the exception to the rule, because it's like you have to change the discourse of the conversation based on their contributions.
Right.
It's kind of like the Barry Bonds and the walks thing and the plate appearances thing, Mike, that we were talking about, where it's like, you can't discredit that happened.
There's only 2 groups that I think that I can just, with good conscience, put ahead of Wu-Tang. And that's PE and Tribe.
Public Enemy and Tribe.
Everybody else is like, yeah, I can't do it in good conscience. You know what I'm saying? Like,
here's
because
how
of the impact. It may be Cass, but even with Cass, it's like it's 2 guys, and we're talking about up against 9. That's just not a fair fight for Cass anyway. But like, Tribe is a collective, right? And their music, created a lane. Same thing with Public Enemy. Their music created a lane. They were a collective. So I guess from the optics of it, I could see them matched up with Wu-Tang a little bit more than a duo,
Right.
Do you think that, let me ask you this, do you think that Outkast made better music than Wu-Tang?
As a group?
And we're just talking about sonically, and we're talking about as a group, individuals. Like, if you had the choice to listen to one catalog, you can listen to Outkast catalog / Dungeon Family catalog stuff, or Wu-Tang's catalog / all the solo stuff, whatever.
Wu-Tang.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's like, when you say that, it's like, well, Enter the Wu-Tang and the Purple Tape, in my opinion, are probably better than anything that's come out of that camp. And Aquemini is the only one that's even in that conversation. Okay. And so just off that alone, it's like a 2-to-1 conversation in terms of like your all-time great album rankings. Because even when you bring up Public Enemy and Tribe, I would tell you that it's like, if I was making a top 10 like list right now, I could easily see myself putting like It Takes a Nation like 6, Enter the Wu-Tang 7, The Low End Theory 8. It's like super, super close.
And,
like that.
Yeah, and if you and I were just matching up song for song like we did with the Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim, it's like I could go toe to toe with songs with Public Enemy versus Wu-Tang. I could go toe to toe with Wu-Tang and Tribe records. I don't know if Cass can do that. I just don't.
Right, like that's what I'm saying. Is it's like, here's my fear with Outkast. It's like, do you understand what it would be like? And this is what I mean about sliding the Aquemini down, even though I don't want to do it, because I think it's like a personal love of the record that we have. And maybe some nostalgia from our formative years of being Southerners too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about Snoop too, because I think there's some objectivity lacking sometimes, even on our part, because we were raised with some East Coast biases based on the publications and the skew of them.
Yeah.
But I say all of that to say, I mean, Mike, when we did that Patreon and you played those Public Enemy songs that were off It Takes a Nation, it makes me frightened for Aquemini.
Oh, yeah.
When I think about playing those record ups against Enter the Wu-Tang, I'm not bothered at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, go ahead. I got something for that. Yeah. Go ahead. I got something for that.
Even songs that I didn't even think.
Even
songs that I didn't even have marked on my sheet like that were going, like the Prophets of Rage and stuff. Like,
Prophets of Rage is epic. That's what I'm saying.
I wasn't even gonna play. Was it the Flash sample? You know what song I'm talking about. Terminator X. I wasn't even gonna play Terminator X, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna play it. And when I played it, I'm like, how was I not gonna play this? Like,
great.
They just got so much great stuff. Dame252 with the super chat says, prediction: Cole will have the best album this year. Oh, we'll get into predictions in a second too.
Yeah,
Jay Short says, Coop, I could use the Wu argument for NWA. West Coast in the house.
I mean,
But like Coop said, the difference is Wu was still Wu Tang when they were doing their individual stuff, where NWA was broken off and done.
right? There's
And
no NWA records on the Chronic,
yeah,
on 2001,
yeah,
on America's Most, on Death Certificate.
yeah.
It's just not. It's just
Again,
not.
that's me looking at that trio in a vacuum. If I and you know what, and we could say the same thing about Face, Beans, and Jay. You know what I mean? Like that's a trio in a vacuum. They went 3 for 3. That's a tough one to beat. Now I would love to put Face, Beans, and Jay. Produced by maybe Kanye West, Just Blaze. Would they make a better album than Cube, Dre, and Easy?
No.
I don't know. I don't know.
Chemistry. Like it's
They
different
got
when you're doing
chemistry.
it. It's different. It's different when you do it with your neighborhood for your neighborhood, Mike. It is.
Yeah.
It's different.
36 Chambers with a super chat says, how many members need to be included to call it a group album? Enough members or solo Wu effort automatically makes it a group album. Are we only saying who is listed in the album cover then?
No, the Wu Tang solo albums to me. I mean, they describe them themselves like this. They're chambers, like where people, literally. It's like when you hear Iron Man. Well, how about this? Ghost Chamber is more soulful than Ray's Chamber. Ray's Chamber is more edgy, more street. You feel what I'm saying? So the way that you rhyme when you're in Ghost Chamber ain't the way you rhyme when you're in Ray Chamber. When you on Liquid Swords, it's called Liquid Swords, Mike. Like it's lyrics. You bring in your lyrical game, as in Ghost on Fourth Chamber, Method Man on Shadow Boxing, Inspector Deck on Duel of the Iron Mike and Cold World, and Master Killer on Duel of the Iron Mike. Ghost and Ray on Investigative Reports. Like you bring your lyrical A game because that's the chamber that you're in.
I've seen
Even
people in the
Wizard
chat.
A game, the Liquid Swords lyrically.
Everybody did, yeah.
Because it's Liquid Swords. It's the jizza.
Yeah. You know what? I see people in the chat saying, Jay-Z and Nas in the group. Like, that's one of those things that is on paper. Jay and Nas haven't proven that they can make great music together, respectfully. You know what I'm saying? There's certain people who have chemistry, and for whatever reason, I think we only saw the chemistry they could possibly have. Actually, I don't even think we saw it on Black Republican. I just think it's the best song that they did. The chemistry's not even there on that.
I like the Black Republican. I like the way they played off of it. I think, for who they are, the song just can't tantamount ever enough unless it's one of the best rap songs you ever hear. How about this? Unless they have a How High type of song and moment, people are never going to be satisfied.
Ooh, but see, no. That's
because
the bar, though.
That's what the expectation is when you're dealing with that level of MC, is it not?
Listen, that's the bar. I'm glad you brought up How High. Because, again, it's fucking amazing that these guys had never made a song together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know how well they knew each other at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that they could just step in the booth and make How High the first time out, that shit is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is amazing. I don't even know who to attribute that to. Is it the fact that both of them are just incredible collaborators? That could be one part of it, because I think Method Man is just a great collaborator anyway, right? And I think they're both fans of each other and their versatility. That's the best. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I had 2 epiphanies while you were speaking. First of all, they both come from group type of atmospheres. For one, obviously there's Wu-Tang Clan, but people forget that Redman and like Def Squad and Hit Squad was like an actual thing where he's rolling with EPMD and K Solo and Keith Murray and trailing EPMD on tour in the late 80s and early 90s. So they both come from a collective state of mind. But here's what I mean. In a vacuum, see, those are the nuances and the details, Mike. In a vacuum, when 2 guys are all-time great and they come together to do a song, Well, you want the song to be all time great because, well, you're very, very clear what these people are capable of doing. And that's what How High is in a vacuum. It's like, oh, that's two of the greatest MCs that ever lived that came together and like literally knocked it. Like, it's not just a home run, it's one of the longest home runs ever hit. You know?
But to be fair, when Blackout came out, a lot of people, and I love that album personally, a lot of people were underwhelmed because of the expectations of what a How High was. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like we were expecting when How High, not How High, when Blackout came out, we were expecting to have a conversation like, is Redman and Method Man a better duo than Outkast type, conversation. But we
Right.
didn't have that. You know what I mean? Because again, the expectations of those two guys coming together, and to me, they knocked it out the park. But it could just never be enough. You know what I mean? Just because of
Can
who they
I,
are.
who did most of the production on Blackout?
Eric Sermon did. I
Can
always
I just
thought that was the thing.
can I submit something to you if I may?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time when I don't have Eric Sermon ranked as high, that album and the production on that album is why. Because I feel like, for me personally, the production on that album is maybe one of hip hop's biggest missteps. Because I don't think he crafted beats that really fit the artist style and really tried to forge into maybe new territory. I think he kind of went for what he knew and what worked. And this wasn't the time to play it safe. This was the time to go explore. And I also think that there needed to be more variety. Like this album needed heat. It didn't just need him. And
Well,
that's not saying like he can't handle it. I'm saying for who they are as MCs. Like I was listening to the Purple Tape 2 today, actually, Mike. The production, like the beats on there. And then I'm looking at who's doing the beats and I'm like, oh, well, yeah.
Well, I'm not making
Yeah.
excuses, right? But we also have to factor in this is in an era where, you're not really able to, digitize and send people beats like that. And they made this album on tour, from what I'm understanding. They made this while they were on the Hard Knock
They need to
Life
stop
tour.
making albums on tour.
Yeah, and so I guess, but see, I think
It's
that
a
that was
count on tour, right?
as individual solo artists, though, that was the time when they were both together. So I think that that's kind of how that album came together, like on tour.
Do you love the production on
even
Blackout? Just yes or no? Do you think the production
no,
is
I
great?
don't love. I never did. I love the rhyming and the
You love the
chemistry. I
rhymes,
think
don't
the
you?
chemistry's at a 10. But I'm just telling you
Hold on,
why
hold
the
on. If the
production came
chemistry,
out the way it did.
hold on, pause, because I know people think that I'm hating. If the chemistry is at a 10 and the rhymes are at the 10, why is this album not more revered?
Yeah, it's the production. I mean,
Okay,
even
so
when I
I'm
used to
not
ride around
bugging.
and play it with my friends or whatever, they weren't really rocking with it because of the production. Now, the songs that RZA did, like Serial Killer and Run for Cover, those are bangers.
Run
But
for
at the
Cover is an
time,
anthem.
at the time, Eric Sermon's Def Jam, they were on a Def Jam tour. More than likely, Eric Sermon was out there on tour with them, and they were
Oh,
creating this album on tour. That's why he
oh,
has so much production on there.
well, that's also called balancing. It's called balancing your financial sheet well when you take a producer this in house.
Yeah.
It's not that the price point is different, it's that it's in-house, therefore on your books, and you don't have to do any extra accounting or backtracking at the end of the year to
Yeah.
find out and piece your numbers together. It's right there on your balance sheet because it's in-house, which means your accountant can't fuck it up. If they do fuck it up, you fire them because it's like, well, the production credits and the money that we paying this motherfucker for this album is in-house.
And you don't have to negotiate with another label either. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to deal with that part of the process. Jay Short with the super chat says, I think 20 songs Dungeon Family can hang with Wu. And I love Wu, but I feel the Dungeon Family more because they have more substance and soul in their production. I'm not going to disagree with that. Now, if we talk about the Dungeon Family versus the Wu, it's like, okay, that can go song for song. I'm comfortable with my Dungeon Family knowledge and being able to use the Dungeon Family's catalog to combat the Wu catalog. I'm confident in that.
Okay, so remember when I was telling you we need to step our Patreon game up about like the battles that we pick?
You want to do that one?
I do. That's better. If you want to do that,
We could do that
I
on
feel for you
Patreon.
like Shaka Khan. Like Andre said on Ain't No Thing.
I know.
No.
I'm a Wu-Tang fan too, because all I'm thinking about is like when a Brooklyn Zoo comes on, like what I got for that, man.
No, I mean I get it. You got cell. I mean to be honest with you, like Soul Food's probably your sleeper because you got Cell Therapy, Goodie Bag, Dirty South.
Somebody said, "Don't do it, Mike.
Soul
I
Food.
gotta represent, man. I gotta represent. I can't.
No, I want you to represent, Mike. I
represent.
love the Dungeon Family. There are inspirations to rap.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think they're the South, especially if you're from Atlanta. Like they're your inspiration to rap. And I still
Those are
love
my
them
two
to death.
favorite crews, man.
Yeah, me too.
Wu-Tang
No, me
and
too.
Dungeon Family,
Undoubtedly,
so.
like unequivocally, like Wu-Tang and Outkast. Like like I grew up literally Tupac, Nas, Biggie, Outkast, Wu-Tang. That's my five. That's like my core five hip hop. So Outkast and like that's part of my shit.
Styles make fights.
My extension Goody too. You know what I mean?
Somebody's asking if Killer Mike's Dungeon Family. I mean, he's second generation. I don't even need to use any of that.
I don't know if Killer Mike has a song that would crack your 20 anyway.
I don't think so.
I mean, what you got between the Outkast catalog and Soul Food and Still Standing is enough. And don't forget about Breeze. I know you. I'm gonna tell you what. You want to know what? Career Team's one of my favorite records that ever came out of the Dungeon Family. That's one of my 10, 15 favorite Dungeon Family songs. I love Career Team.
One of my favorites, Holiday from Wichita.
Okay, I like Holiday. The beat on Holiday crazy.
The beat on Holiday is crazy. Yeah, I'm down to do it. You know what I'm saying? Jay Short with the super chat says, "Thanks, fellas. I got 3 verses come true." Yeah, Jay Short did come with that. He actually came with the what was that? The Brooklyn and Queens one too, which was epic.
He did.
That was cool.
Yeah, you just. Oh,
I think the thing is, man, Wu-Tang shit is just so hard and has such an edge, whereas the Dungeon Family stuff is like more soulful. And to match up with what you're about to do, I'm really gonna have to dig for the Benz or Beamer type records that those guys did, you know. And even with that, it's gonna be a tough battle.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just gonna throw haymakers. I'm not even gonna like try to be cute.
Nah, don't. Yeah, I mean, that's what the Wu-Tang got. I mean, okay. So even with all that being said, I probably got De La at about maybe 5. Without even thinking.
I think I got him at like 5. I think when I did my list on Twitter, I had him at like 6, 5 or 6.
I think I got your list right here. Let's see.
Wu-Tang.
Yeah, you got them at 5. You got Mobb Deep over De La.
I do. Their impact is greater, and I think Prime Prodigy is better than Pasanews to me.
I think that the one thing that's different, and let me look at your list real quick. I think the one thing that's different about De La that really stands out here is the lack of star power from individuals in the group, and I say that respectfully. I mean, because you look at Wu-Tang, like you said, you got like 5 like frontliners right there. Tribe got Q-Tip, Cass got Big Boy and Dre. Mobb Deep got Prodigy. Public Enemy got Chuck and Flav. NWA got Easy and Cube. Run DMC, even though I think DMC is the better rapper, in my opinion, they got Rev Run. You know what I'm saying? The Roots got Tariq. You know what I mean? 3
That's
6.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's when I'm putting them at 5, that's because their catalog is so great that I feel like it's kind of disrespectful of them to put it there. But I'll tell you what, when I say
the groups are similar to them though, and I just saw it on the list, is EPMD in that sense. As far as the star power goes.
Ooh, and they have bigger records, actually.
Yeah. EPMD is, EPMD and De La kind of have the similar thing going on. They got like a great catalog, album for album. They got bangers. I think they probably got a little bit more bangers than De La, even though I think De La made better albums. But as far as that star power that these other groups have, I think EPMD and De La have that similar, quote unquote issue.
I can't even lie. I'm listening to you, but half of my brain is thinking about these 20 Wu-Tang songs.
Who's the other group? UGK obviously got Pimp C. Come on, man. Clips. As a collective.
The fun thing about these lists is that they're supposed to be fun and have us talking about them with the fervor that we're talking about, and even unpacking some things. Like, I'm going to tell you some of the things that I missed. Houdini. And Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, I forget who pointed that out to me on Twitter. They're like, you ain't showing the pre-85, like, any love Coop. I was like, I was born in 81. You know what I mean? I was
Houdini.
like, I wasn't there. I don't know. I was like, I told him I'm trying to put something together with one of my OGs so we can do a segment where we can like show love like to that era and that time maybe a little bit more. I was like, but I can't speak on what I don't know. And it's like, as much as I love Houdini, and you even spoke about preferring Houdini to Run DMC, correct?
Yeah, I
But
think Houdini made better music, in my opinion. Obviously, Run DMC probably had not probably had the bigger impact per se, and I don't know if they had a longer run. Yeah, they had a longer run, but Houdini has One Love. Houdini has Friends. Houdini has Freaks Come Out at Night. Give me three Run DMC songs that you prefer over those three. And that's just, I mean, those are some big, big records that have been reused, re-looped. If you hear the One Love beat, you know what it is.
I cannot deny what you're putting down right now.
And I mean, and that doesn't even count some of the street records that Houdini had, like I'm a Hoe, and you know what I'm saying, like Mr. Magic. Houdini got a catalog, man. Andre Shashir with the super chat says, "What up, fellas? My bad, off topic, but Coop, where did you get that hoodie from? I need one." He just now getting into the show. Coop was saying it was
I'm
comfortable and
about to put it in
everything.
the chat. No,
Yeah,
I'm about to put it in the chat. I forgot. Yeah, and it's comfortable. It's comfortable, Dre. It's super comfortable. I'm just rocking. I've been rocking this thing all day. I ain't barely took it off. I ain't even gonna lie. I felt good.
Andrew Green with the super chat says, "Can you guys rank these first time pairings? Nas on Life's a Bitch, Nas and AZ on Life's a Bitch. Excuse me. Dr. Dre and Snoop on Deep Cover, Redman and Method Man on How High, Jay and Big on Brooklyn's Finest." Okay, off the top of my head, damn, those are some good ones. I'll say this, and I say this respectfully: Jay and Big are last. Um, I think How High is first for me. Then I'm probably gonna go Life's a Bitch and then Deep Cover. That's tough because Deep Cover is epic, man. That's tough.
I think Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg are the best like actual combo ever.
I agree
They're the
with that.
actual.
That we can agree on.
They're the real dynamic duo.
They are.
And
Not
I'm gonna put
Eminem.
Deep
Not
Cover at
Eminem.
number one
Yeah.
because that is your introduction to the real dynamic duo, which
Yeah.
is Dre and Snoop. So I got Deep Cover number one. As much as I love me somehow high, I think Life's a Bitch is just a better record end to end. And so I'm gonna go Life's a Bitch number two, and then I'm gonna go How High, and I'm with you like Big and J is pulling up the rear. They ain't getting no medal. They're just gonna get honorary mention, unfortunately. But all classic records.
Mad Max said How High's not first, man. I'm biased. How High changed my life. I seen them niggas in that video and saw the chemistry with those two guys. I was like, man, whatever that is, that hip hop shit, I got to be down with that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very biased to that record. That's actually probably one of my favorite hip hop records ever. That, Shadowboxing, and Ice Cream had a similar effect on me where it was like, oh yeah, I'm a fan. Mind you, Method Man was my favorite rapper growing up too. So
I can remember I was writing down the words to Shadowbox, and I was like, "What the hell?"
when that nigga came in, I break you down to the bone gristle.
His flow.
Yeah, when that nigga came through, I break you down to the bone gristle. I'm like, yo, man, this
Was he?
is crazy. You know my steez.
Yeah.
Burned it to a third degree. Yeah, I'll know those verses for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, all that to say, looking forward to Daylight getting on streaming platforms and looking forward to people who haven't really gotten the chance to delve into their catalog to delve into it. They're one of the greats and they should be treated as such. And hopefully they do a full rollout for this. And I hope that there's a tour that kind of backs that too, because I know they tour a lot. And I'm looking forward to Daylight even putting out more music. They're what you wish you want a group to be, right? Like they're literally, I would say them, Public Enemy goes through their stuff. They kind of, come together, break apart and all that. But De La Soul is the Rolling Stone of, of hip hop. They've stayed together the whole time. They've been here since 88, 89. They're going to go out there and tour. As you say, they go to work. You know what I mean? They put out consistent efforts. And they make music, or made music, and still do, but they made music, when they were young that they could perform as older men.
Not a lot of rap groups can say that too.
Yeah.
They have to pick and choose as they get older because of you know, subject matter or lack thereof of substantive subject matter that kind of transcends generations.
Yeah.
So you're right in that regard.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? They are working on new music because I saw them and Prince Paul hooked up. So, I don't know if that has anything to do with the announcement that their stuff is, getting the streaming platforms, but I'm excited about it because I think Prince Paul, again, as a producer, he's always an incredible creative. And I think that them coming together, it's just going to be nothing but, dopeness. I can't see them failing coming together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's like
So
if we see Andre Big Boy sitting down with Organized Noise and Mr. DJ. Like, how can this turn out bad?
So a couple things. I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is De La's MC's voices part of the issue here? Because when you were going down the front man, I was thinking, well, damn, that's Chuck D.
Yeah.
That's Ice Cube. That's Easy. That's like the voices of the frontman Prodigy, Dre.
I think
like
they
the
have
voices
good
of-
voices. I don't think they have bad voices, but maybe not the
No,
most
no, but
commanding
they have
voice.
great rap voices, is what I'm telling you. Because what we unpacked last year is how much like voice. Oh well, the shit that you spitting is fine, but the people who ascend are the people that have the voice that goes with what they are spitting. Like it's not just Method Man. It's the voice. It's not just Big. It's the voice. It's not just Pac. It's the voice. It's not just Nas. It's the voice. It is the voice. It's not just Chuck D. It's the voice. It's not just Ice Cube, Scarface. It's not just them and what they're saying. It's the voice.
I
It's
think
the
you're
voice
right.
issue for De La. Because maybe it's not that they're not stars. Maybe it's that their voice isn't star enough.
I can't disagree with that.
Because when you were running that list of people, I was thinking, damn, all of their frontmen have better rap voices.
Yeah, and again, I think that when we look at EPMD, it's kind of a similar thing, And again, I think EPMD was slightly before my time, so people who grew up on EPMD look at it very different than I do. But me going back and listening to EPMD, like I like the songs and like the production, but as far as like from a rhyming standpoint, it was like cool. You know what I mean? It's no Rakim or Kane or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? DFW Herbie with the super chat says, I forgot to mention the last time a candidate for verse of the year is Pusha on Simba's record. Fire. Well, we're getting into a whole new year, man. We're gonna get some new Pusha coming soon.
Me and the MJ year, we on 23.
Yeah, we're in the MJ year. Where do you want to go next? Because we were just...
Well, I had
ahead.
one more place I wanted to go before we bust a move.
Okay, because I was thinking the Snoop thing, but go ahead.
Well, you want to know it, and this is a conversation because he would be in that conversation. Is Method Man the greatest rap collaborator ever? That was my main epiphany that I had when you were talking, because I'm thinking about all the great records with somebody like a Redman. I tell you, Mike, like my favorite two Wu-Tang albums are actually The Purple Tape and Liquid Swords. And it's very, very clear in my mind, those albums are not the same without Method Man's contributions.
They're not. No, they're not.
Neither one of them.
No, they're not.
Iron Man with box in hand. Like when he shows up, he just shows out, and he showed up and shown out on so many people, R&B and rap wise. Mobb Deep on Extortion when we were having the Patreon. I was like, oh yeah, he's on Extortion. I was like, yeah, he's
and he's on Helter Skelter's Magnum Force album, killing it.
Yes, he is. He's everywhere.
Method Man is like Snoop in a sense where we take him for granted, and I think that we take his presence and what he does for that group and for others for granted. I mean, even, I don't know how everybody feels about this record, but that All In Together Now record on the Limp Bizkit's album, the Premier did, that nigga, he went crazy on there. He could have easily just dialed that one in. He went crazy on there.
The Vibin' record?
Yeah.
Remember the Postman remix, the Vibin' record?
I mentally stab your brain with the pain while other niggas spit mad Flames, I spit game. Yeah, he went crazy on that. He went, at that time, and maybe people who weren't around don't understand. Busta Rhymes was rapping clean up on everything because he had such a crazy voice, style, and everything.
Delivery,
Nobody was
everything was.
going behind Busta. Method Man went behind Busta on that Vibe and remix and stole the show. That's who he is.
It's not a problem.
That's
It
who
wasn't
he
even a
is.
problem. It was pretty effortless, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
effortless.
pretty effortless. Didn't put much work in to do it. And then you look at like all the young cats that he's worked with, and like all the battle rap stuff.
Even Conway with Lemon.
That's what I'm saying.
I think he is the greatest collaborator ever. Honestly, I'm sitting here thinking while we're talking. I mean, a lot of people would probably say Lil Wayne, but I'd say Meth. And you factor in his hook game on top of that.
No, that's what I mean. He just like ice cream's not ice cream without Method Man. I don't care how
Cream's not either.
I don't care how much we love those two beats. They're not the same without him doing those hooks.
Nah, Cream and Ice Cream are big ones.
I told you, like the end of Ice Cream, the outro to Ice Cream, that's one of my favorite like rap outros like ever. Like it's one of the best rap outros ever where he just starts freaking it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
Yeah,
LP with the super chat
it's like
says,
he gave the record so much flavor. Yeah.
It's just so much soul, for lack of a better term. LP with the super chat says, Jay Dilla killed De La and Tribe sound, in my opinion. Huh. Interesting.
What does it mean?
I think that he means once Dilla came into the fold, those groups were never the same. That's factual to a degree. I mean, it was a change that they felt like they had to make. I think that when they made that change, from you talk about stakes is high and beats, rhymes, and life, they thought that was going to be the future for them, but Dilla belonged to somebody else. Jay Short with the super chat says, why do y'all think Meth never made a classic? Solo classic. He means, I think that all the props that we're giving Meth for being possibly the greatest featured artist ever, I think Meth's more of a team player than a solo act. Even though he probably has the most star power of damn near any MC you could think of. I think he's more comfortable in a group setting, or like even with Blackout, I could tell he was more comfortable having Redman there than he was on Judgment Day. You know what I mean?
He's got some Kevin Durant to him in that regard.
I think so.
Where it's like, well, he's actually the star of the team, but
he thinks about the
team. But the way he plays the ball game and the way he thinks about the game, you would never know that he's actually the star and the lead attraction. Because even next to Redman, he's the star. Even in Busta Rhymes in the room, no, he the star. He the star. The only time he's not the biggest star in the room is probably if like Pac and Big was alive and in the room, and maybe like like Nas early on, Jay. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm
no,
glad
he's the
you
biggest guy
brought
in the
up
room
Busta.
at most of the rooms.
I'm glad you brought up Busta though, because Busta embraced being that solo artist. Like, look at how Method Man jumped into being a solo artist, and look how Busta jumped into it. Busta embraced being a solo artist, whereas Method Man, you could tell he was still in the group, whatever. You know what I mean?
But I also believe that leaders of the new school had some competitive fervor issues.
I mean, when you hear Woo-Ha, and I guess you could say the same thing about Bring the Pain. When you hear Woo-Ha, you hear a solo artist. Like, this doesn't sound like a guy that was ever in a group. You know what I mean?
Yes, okay. So when you hear Woo-Ha, you hear a star, which is correct. When you hear Bring the Pain, you hear somebody that can be the greatest MC of all time, though.
You think so?
Right. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Frank Wizard with the super chat says, like Guru said, mostly the voice. Yeah. DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, Coop, I apologize for my placement of Snoop on Twitter. I was tripping. I stand on my reason, but he's 10 to 15 in my opinion. I'm the Black House. Okay.
I think I had to send him that Think About It record that we played on Patreon. Like, I had to put that Think About It in the Twitter atmosphere. It's like,
crazy,
man. All you think that Snoop can't rap his ass off. He can rap his ass off when he feel like it. I love to give you lighters kind of that way, too.
Okay, I want to know why people don't think that Snoop is top 10. And you know what? Let's start the conversation like this. Who are 10 people that you would put ahead of Snoop? I
Put
got my
ahead of
pen and
him.
pad out.
When I thought about it, this is what I'm saying. So let's go through like I think the people who are what I would say obvious, and I don't think and I say that respectfully to Snoop. I think Nas and Jay-Z clearly have separated themselves.
Nas, Jay, Rakim.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Those are the guys that have clearly separated themselves from Snoop.
Uh-huh.
So after that, I would tell you that it's like, well, who's better than Snoop in the end? Like when I'm going through these songs, I want.
Someone said Prodigy. What say you? I say no.
No.
It's no way.
I love P. He's not in this conversation.
All right. Okay. Elephant in the room, Biggie.
Okay. I'll give you Big. Let's go.
You know what? There could be an argument made that Big's not better than Snoop. I'm sorry. I mean, just for the longevity conversation, obviously, you know, Big's trajectory is what it is. He probably had the highest ceiling of anybody. But if we're basing what Snoop's done from Doggy Style to now, and we're basing it off of the catalog that Biggie has accumulated in his career, unfortunately, you know, with his, you know, untimely demise, it's hard for me to say that I can put Big over Snoop like that.
Well, can I tell you something that I want to start doing? And I know you're probably going to agree with this. I'm just going to start off the year this way. I'm not saying that we got to take Biggie or Pac out of our top 10, but I think we need to asterisk them. And I think we need to actually start the top 10 by putting an asterisk next to their names. It's like they need to like start off the list with it saying Pac and Biggie, and then you go through your 1 through 10. But like the show that they should be included, and had they lived, they'd probably be there. But I don't know how we can keep on putting them in this top 10 the way hip hop has grown and evolved. Because here's the thing about it. They were top 10 when they passed. They passed a quarter century ago, roughly. You get what I'm saying?
I'm with you on the Biggie thing because of the lack of material, right? But Tupac had enough. I don't think Tupac really needs an asterisk like that.
Okay,
like,
I'm cool with that.
You know what I'm saying? Because Pac has more albums than a lot of people who aren't, you know, gone. You know what I mean?
Like, you would say better albums, but yes.
But you know what I'm saying? So he doesn't have an issue with not
what
having
you're saying
enough.
Is he made enough material.
He's made enough material. I think that the asterisk when it comes to Big is the lack of material. I mean, even though he did everything he could in the time frame that he could, but we saw Pac, you know, make music in different phases of hip hop, where we only saw Big make music in 2 phases, and it's 2 albums.
Okay.
You know, so, and I do think that, and again, I want to be clear, Life After Death is one of the most impressive solo missions ever. Point blank, period. But I don't think that it's fair to put 2 efforts over people's whole 30-year career.
Well, that's what I mean about the asterisks.
Yeah. But we're not talking about, all right, and I want to say this, and I'm going to bring
it's one of those things where it's like, no, you belong in the hallowed hall, but due to unfortunate circumstances, it's like you're still in this hall, but it's like when we put, you know, and I'm glad you said the thing about Pac, you know, because like for me, he's going to be top 5 no matter what. But people, this whole KD run, like the whole Magic thing, it's like, well, Nas just did more material than Big's career, like
in
the last 18 months.
Exactly. And see, the thing is,
and it's all high quality level material. So it's like, is it Life After Death? It's like, well, no. I mean, but.
And we're talking about Nas, though. And we're talking about Nas, though. We're talking about the big dogs, and I don't want people to get it confused. Like, oh, so you're saying that, you know what I'm saying, Jadakiss is better than Big? No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, when it comes to people who have done things that Big did and beyond, it's not fair to continuously put Big over them when they continue to do more and more. Let's not act like Snoop ain't got Doggy Style in his catalog. Like, Jada doesn't have Doggy Style in his catalog. He just doesn't. You know what I mean?
I mean, and we're gonna probably talk about Kiss a little bit in this. It's like, well, while we're there and we're having this conversation, Mike, can you put Kiss ahead of Snoop?
No.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what we've been doing though. That's what we've been out here doing.
We shouldn't have been doing that. Andrew Green with the super chat says Jada got comparable big features to Snoop and Matt. I don't think Jada can control a record like Snoop and Meth do. Like, those guys change the complexity of a record just with their voice, their, just the swagger they come on the record with, and the hook game. What is Jadakiss' best hook?
You make a valid point when you bring up the hook game, Mike.
Yeah. Mr. Davis with the super chat says, is there an artist in the top 10 that does not have multiple classic albums? We talked about this on the Patreon. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we talk about, and I see LL's name coming up because I know we're going to bring up LL. I think for some eras, people would say that LL has maybe 3 classics, maybe Radio, Bigger and Deffer, and Mama Said Knock You Out, or Mr. Smith, whatever. But if we're talking about the 50 greatest hip-hop albums ever, those records might not get named first. So I think that Snoop and LL, due to their longevity, due to them being superstars, and due to them having songs out the wazoo that people who might have 2 or 3 classics just don't have, they're different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that they get judged by those standards of how many classic albums you got, because when you look at their individual song output, their hit records, their features, and their presence out here, it outweighs that. You know what I'm saying? The impact, it outweighs that.
It does. You're absolutely right. It does.
We can't just minimize them to like, oh, okay, you did all that shit, Snoop. Well, how many classic albums do you have? You know what I mean? Like, the people who got 2 or 3 classic albums, did they do what Snoop did?
It's deeper than having a classic album or 2. I mean, and I want to be very, very clear about this. And this is what I mean about when you start making exceptions to rules about stuff, and like the Wu-Tang thing. Well, the reason that Nas and Jay are number 1 and number 2 isn't just that they've just like made classic albums. It's the length of great material that they've made over a course of time. It's not like we're talking about 1 or 2 good albums. We be sitting up here talking about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 good albums of material. Ain't nobody else talking like that except for like the faces, Ghost and Scar.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. There are things that you do that kind of transcend it. Like what LeBron is doing right now, transcend it. You know?
Yeah, no, you're right.
It changes the parameters of how you look at things.
It's hard to rate people that do things that we haven't seen before. And I think that that's why LL and Snoop are so hard for people to rate. Because it's not about, and you said this on the Patreon, and, go check out the Patreon for the people who have it. Because Coop did a real good job of breaking down Snoop's catalog and why Snoop should be top 10 and kind of facing it with the music. Because Snoop made it very clear that, A, I'm going to change my content because of this murder trial. And I'm still going to be able to make banging ass music after I do that. But what was very important, what you said, was Snoop dialed back the crazy rhyming to make better music.
It's very, very clear. That's why I started off on the Patreon with Deep Cover and Lil Ghetto Boy and those records, because it's like when you're hearing the early version of him rhyme, Murder Was the Case. Oh no, he's rapping his ass off, and the records are way more street. And then the murder case actually happens, and then you get the Dogg Father, and really what you're getting is somebody that like literally has had their life altered by this trial, and therefore the style of music that they're making is not the same. But when they step into that foray, as in with a Bitch Please, or a Vato, or a Next Episode, or a Two of America's Most Wanted, nobody does it. Listen to some of these songs that I'm about to name, and you tell me who want to fuck with this. And these are all songs that were either a single or looked at like a single on the radio, on hip hop radio in terms of how it was played. Deep Color, Nothing But a G Thing, Lil Ghetto Boy, Dre Day, What's My Name, Gin and Juice, Doggy Dog World, The Shiznit, Murder Was the Case, Lottie Dottie, Ain't No Fun, Beautiful, Drop It Like It's Hot, Let's Get Blown, That's That Shit, Candy, Vato, Lay Low, Still a G Thing, What's My Name Part 2, Bitch Please, Still DRE, Next Episode, Two of America's Most Wanted, Boss Life, Vapors, Ups and Downs. Who want that? Who want that? Who wants that?
Still a lot that you left off.
Can I interest you in some of his assists like Afro Puffs? What Would You Do? New York, Down for My Niggas, Holiday Inn, I Wanna Love You by Akon. Can I interest you in some of the assists?
He's done it all.
He's done it all.
Jay Short with the super chat says, if Doggy Style was released tomorrow, people would say it's not Doggy Style. That's funny. LP with the super chat says, he's a top 10 artist, not a top 10 MC. I'm glad you said that. I wanted to have that conversation. He only has one true classic. He had ghostwriters for years, simplistic rhyme schemes, subject matter. Nas, Jay, Pop Big, KRS, Rakim, K-Dot, Cube, Ray, and others are better than him. Okay, let's take this topic.
Okay, right, he said
K-Dot because I wanted to get to that Rolling Stone list.
We're talking about some 2023 predictions because somebody better drop an album this year that's not some mid.
Well, K-Dot's not better than Snoop. I can't put him over Snoop at this point now.
He don't have no Doggy Style. He didn't write nothing comparable to The Chronic. He don't have no Still DRE or Next Episode type of performance or guest appearance.
But I want to take that first.
He don't have no Nothing But a G Thing or Dre Day.
I want to take that first stanza that he said.
We're going to get off this rapidy rat shit this year.
Where he said he's a top 10 artist, not a top 10 MC. Because, it is funny, like, a lot of people, and I'm not saying you're doing this, LP, but a lot of people like to hide behind verbiage, and I think that's what Rolling Stone did in this recent list, which we're going to get to as well, where they said top 200 singers as opposed to top 200 artists or whatever, right? And clearly, nobody in their right mind would think that the vocal talent of Rihanna supersedes the vocal talent of a Michael Jackson or something. So, but anyway, when it comes to artists and MC, in my mind, what makes you an overall great MC is the artist part of it. Even when we did MC of the Year and gave that to Nas last year, it was because what he did as an artist and making full, complete efforts, full, complete songs, and basically doing all those things. It feels like when you say MC, LP, it feels like you're talking about top 10 lyricists. And when we talk about MCing, you got Pac here. So how do you feel about Pac's simplistic approach to MCing, and how is that different than what Snoop takes on? Is that more of a content thing?
MCing is a full encompassing approach.
That's what I thought. And I love Ray, but Ray hasn't collectively done, from an MCing standpoint, everything that Snoop has done.
Neither is Ghost.
No.
That's what I mean. Neither
That's
is
just
Scarface.
real, and I love Ghost. Ghost is my personal favorite.
Neither is Scarface. I love Scarface.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was up at like 7:30 this morning playing The Diary, working out. Like, I love some Face. I woke up to the white sheet. It's like I literally said my prayers, took my dog outside, and then I put that gangster shit on.
But see, this is the thing. And like you said, Ray, Ghost, and Face, they can't make a Who Am I or What's My Name. But
they haven't either.
But Snoop has proven that he can make a Murder Was the Case. He can make something as dark as what Face makes. He can make something. Yeah.
Murder Was the Case.
Yes. He can make something.
You hear him on Vato? He literally on Vato. He talking big shit on Vato. He's like, I ain't weak for wanting peace. In fact, I could be beast of the East, motherfucker.
And even if you want to talk on the soulful tip and the storytelling tip, he can do what Ghost and Ray did when you look at Lil Ghetto Boy. Like, he can do it all.
It's a choice. He's
Yeah,
making a
it's a
choice.
choice.
He's making a choice. How about this?
It's like the year when Wilt said, you know what, I'm going to pass the ball and led the league in assists.
In other genres,
You're
in other genres, for the artist, it's about making the song great, not writing the best lyric.
right.
It's about the song being great. And Snoop, and this is what I mean about him being our first, like, real, like, rap star, like, superstar. That's actually the approach and the moniker that he actually took and adopted. And that's why I talk about him the way that I do as rap's first superstar. He is really the first one to look at it from the superstar's perspective of like, no. Fuck all this like rhyming shit to be number one. I'm going to make the records that make me number one. That's what people do in other genres. We're the only genre that puts the lyrics like on that precipice. It's like... I think that Nas is one of the best lyricists of all time, but it's really more about the albums and the storytelling than it is the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Like those moments where he like leaves Earth, it's like he has more leave Earth moments, but the meat of that shit is in the stories and in the content. And in, you know what I'm saying? It's not in like all the fancy shit that he says. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's in the real shit that he says.
Speaking of the stories, though, I think that all those things you said about Snoop, I agree with. But his predecessor is Slick Rick. And if you think about, Slick Rick was making big songs before, you know what I'm saying, hip-hop really fully crossed over. And he was doing it. You could tell that making the song was more important to Slick Rick than, you know what I'm saying, being the best quote-unquote rapper.
Like Slick Rick could have got on like an aggressive track and rap like Kane or Rakim or KRS if he wanted to. I'll be right back.
Jay Short with the super chat. What's that? Okay, go ahead. Jay Short with the super chat says, that one classic argument don't fly. Snoop made the Chronic hot. Anyone saying anything else is revisionist history. Yes, I mean, I think that when you want to talk about writing, and I'm going to talk about that when Coop comes back, I mean, all the writing that Snoop did on the Chronic is damn near as much of Snoop's album as it is Dre's. Every high point on the Chronic involves Snoop for the most part, especially, you know, when you talk about songs that got put out. Like we said on the Patreon, the reason why the next episode was supposed to be the first single is because Snoop was on it. And the reason why even the song that replaced it as the first single, which is still DRE, had to have Snoop on it. If you're putting a record out and you're Dr. Dre, Snoop has to be on it. And that's not by accident.
Well, let me also too tell you this too. There's connective thread. People forget this. This is what I mean about how he piece it together so well. How does Nothing But a G thing end lyrically?
Yeah.
So just chill to what?
To the next episode. And that was supposed to be the to be continued moment.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, people. So it's like, you see how Snoop is integral. Snoop is into connecting the Chronic to the Chronic 2001. Even some of the connection is literally based off his bars.
Yeah.
Like, that's how important he is to the Chronic and to the Chronic 2001, in addition to Doggy Style, in addition to the blue carpet treatment.
I'm going to say this, though. I think that if someone wants to say that they have somebody like a Cube, because you got to be qualified, right? Somebody like a Cube or a Pac over Snoop because of content and because, you know, they took things lyrically and content-wise to a certain level that Snoop never really proved that he can do, I'm fine with that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm fine with Pac. I don't know if I'm fine with Cube.
Listen, I understand. But again, Cube made America's Most. He made Death Certificate. He touched on a lot of things that Snoop's never, you know what I'm saying, attempted to touch on. But I feel you, because again, Snoop's done some things that Cube hasn't done. Jay Short with the super chat says, Snoop is 50 and still comes out with 3 projects a year. No 5-year breaks. Yeah, that's real. Like, there's no way in the world that I could put K-Dot over Snoop after a 5-year break, dropping some mid, and Snoop's 50 years old, dropping 3 projects a year. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, that just don't even sound right. What do you think about this notion where people were saying that Snoop didn't write his rhymes? Like, am I missing something? Who wrote for Snoop?
That's what I was actually about to ask you and present you with the same thing. When people keep on jumping in here saying he don't write all this stuff, it's like, what are you talking about? Because it's like, well, I know him and the DOC wrote The Chronic. I know he wrote Doggy Style.
Yeah.
I know he wrote a lot of stuff for 2001.
Like, who wrote what for him? Like, we can't
Right.
just go out there saying, you know, somebody wrote this. And, I mean, they're not even saying who wrote what. Because we know the stuff that Saha wrote for Kanye, right? We know the stuff that, you know, that Quentin Miller wrote for Drake. But what songs were written for Snoop and
That's
that
what I'm
he
saying.
didn't write? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, LP is like saying Jay-Z for one. Well, what Jay-Z song?
Are you talking about the hook for Still DRE?
Talking about the hook for Still DRE?
I mean, a lot of motherfuckers write hooks for people. Pharrell does it all the time. I'm sure Nas has some hooks that were written for him.
Your hooks 50% of the time are coming from the producer of the song. You niggas have never been in the studio.
LP with the super chat says, in my opinion, you can't be a top MC if you don't write your own raps. You can be great. You can be a great artist like Kanye, Drake, Snoop, but not a top 10 MC. Pac did both on a high level. Top MC, write your own stuff is number one. Again, what rhymes did Snoop not write? What am I missing here? Who wrote? Because when I hear somebody is distinctive sounding as Snoop, whenever he raps, it sounds like Snoop wrote it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I never hear, like, you know, whenever you hear Dr. Dre rap, you can kind of imagine who wrote this for him, right? Like,
can you imagine this? Imagine this. People are literally like coming to us about the hook from Still DRE when they're saying Snoop has writers. I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world, still hitting them corners in them lolos, girl. That's all he says.
Yeah. I mean, and the person who wrote the song, Jay, he wrote it with Snoop in mind. Like,
am I missing something? They're acting like it was some. They're acting like that is some like heavy bar worker. Like he like went in there and like it's like no, Snoop, say it like this.
But let me ask you this though, Coop. Does it mean that Snoop wrote Jay's bars when he's like in the crap tables down in AC, back on the block, Jay-Z motherfucker from the rock? Does that mean that Snoop wrote his verse?
Or is he just straight up jacking?
I mean, jacking or not, those are Snoop's writings, right? He wrote it, right?
Correct.
Come on, man. Are we serious?
What are we doing?
36 Chambers with a super chat says, this was said in the comments. Does Snoop lose the longevity conversation, given that when we reference him, we usually talk about 25 plus years of old projects more than the recent ones? Has he maintained the quality? Tell me how many people have maintained quality over 25 years, period. Most people that we talk about don't even last 25 years. So I think that when it comes to Snoop and LL, we penalize them for their longevity when they're stepping in no man's land. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people would just sit there and thrive on the stuff they made in their heyday. I got to give Snoop points for continuing to make new music. K-Dot was scared to drop an album.
If Snoop having ghostwriters, first of all,
he doesn't. Man. Give us some proof.
Hold on. Let's start with the DOC thing. First of all, Snoop's first opportunity as a writer on a major album was The Chronic. DOC showed Snoop how to write rhymes formally, and Snoop has said that. That does not make him a ghostwriter for Snoop. That means he was helping Snoop piece together words that Snoop was writing and put them into a format. My cousin had to do the same thing for me. When it was time for me to start recording, Mike, I would have these rhymes that would be 4 pages long, and he would be like, and I mean front to back 4 pages long, so it's 8 pages. He'd be like, so you have the best breath control ever? He's like, we're gonna put these in the bars.
Yeah.
It's like bars.
I mean, that's just learning how to format your stuff. Any musician
right. So
will learn
that's
that
not being a ghostwriter.
No, it's not. You know, who do y'all think wrote, well, I'm creeping and I'm creeping and I'm creeping. And I got cat, cut my beeper, cat beeping. Who you think wrote that? That's all Snoop. Like, are we just not going to give the man credit for writing everything for Dre?
Even when you hear stuff like These Nuts, it's apparent that Snoop wrote Dre's verse on These Nuts. It's like apparent.
Mike, check.
Back with some shit that they got.
Exactly. Like, people are wild, man. Like, I feel it.
Y'all are wild.
I think what it is, man, we all
It's
have
that
our
East Coast bias. That's what it is. Let's
but
just
I think
call
we
it what
all
it
have
is.
our notions of what we think is, and we don't want to derive from that. So we want to make any type of argument to discredit the fact that Snoop probably is top 10, and we've been tripping the whole time.
That's what I'm saying. And here's what I mean. When people are sitting up here, hold on, Kaya David is talking about hold on. Somebody wrote 2009's Malice in Wonderland for Snoop. It's like, okay, who wrote Beautiful? Who wrote Murder Was the Case?
But no. Don't say somebody. Who wrote it? Who wrote it? Do we have a name?
It doesn't matter.
How do we know?
They talking about songs that don't even like register in any sort of like catalog or historically great conversation. That's what I'm saying.
I want to know. I want to know the songs.
Did he write the Shiznit?
No, hold on, Coop. I want to know the songs, and I want to go and listen to them and be like, you know what? Does that sound like Snoop or not? Like, how do we know somebody else wrote these songs? Are we talking about some Vlad interviews or something?
People are in the chat, Mike. People are in the chat saying that Snoop is admitted to having ghostwriters. Some people are saying that ego tripping was the first time he used some. But I'm going to tell you something that I know, Mike, because I was there. Most of Snoop's classic shit, what he's renowned for and what we're talking about right now, he wrote that shit and you know it. So stop pulling up in the chat and like disrespecting Snoop like that. This is what I'm talking about. People with this is the only culture where we disrespect our all-time great legends with such ease and try to find a way to tear them down before we'll pull them up. Like, listen to really what y'all doing and how y'all talking right now. This is Snoop. He made Doggy Style. Fuck your feelings about a hook from Still DRE. For real.
And the Chronic.
For real. He wrote the Chronic. He wrote the Chronic in Doggy Style. Stand down. Jay wrote the hook for Still DRE. So what, nigga?
Let me get to these super chats, and I got some more to say. DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, just curious because I have trouble ranking both. Do y'all have Snoop over Wayne? I think Wayne's slightly overrated, by the way. Yeah, Snoop's over Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think Wayne's cracking our top 10. And this is what I mean. I actually want to have a new top 10 discussion, Mike, because just when I started going through Snoop's catalog, I was thinking, man, I was like, we're East Coast biased because we were raised to be East Coast biased. And we got to start tearing that down. Because here's what I really started thinking about. If you really start giving the totality of the MC's careers, their impact, what you have is arguably 3 West Coast MCs on your top 10. You have Pac, Snoop, and you have Cube. And then you have Scarface, so you have somebody from the South. So having 4 of your top 10 MCs ever not come from the Mecca is a little bit of a shift.
I want to ask anybody who, and again, I think the Wayne thing is valid, right? Tell me that you would feel comfortable playing 20 of Wayne songs and features versus 20 of Snoop songs and features.
Wash. Yeah. I love Wayne. Wayne don't. Yeah. I wouldn't do that to Wayne out of respect for Wayne. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I mean. When people be talking, it's like, man, you gotta start being realistic. I want people to understand this. Doggy Style came out in December of '93, I think. Mm-hmm. Correct?
November of '93. Yeah.
Okay. I want people to listen to this and understand. It sold 800,000 copies its first week in November of 1993, and then proceeded, Mike, after going platinum. After going platinum before the year was over, it proceeded to sell 4 million records in 1994.
I was about to say, Coop, we want to talk about...
It's a live 5 million he sold. He sold 5 million in a calendar year.
Yeah, I was about to say, we talk
in
about...
1993
we talk about East Coast bias. Snoop really ran 94.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and we were taught that Big did, but no, Snoop really ran 94.
Doggy Style sold 4
million.
Now,
Big is 95. Big is 95.
I'm glad that you're bringing it up.
Yeah.
There's a Big know who was running 94. Yeah. How does Life After Death start off, everybody?
Yeah.
I'm sitting back dreaming of Lear Jets and Coops, the way Salt shoots, and how to do what?
Sell records like Snoop, man.
Oops, I'm interrupted by a doorbell. And you want to know why Big is great? The dogs that are barking and warning are there on Somebody's Gotta Die. He's keeping the story going.
Yeah.
That's how ill Big is. The dogs from Warning are in Somebody Gotta Die. I hope y'all know your history.
Nerd talk. Jay Short with the super chat says Snoop suffers from East Coast bias and ageism. Radio won't play his new music no matter how good it is, and he's using the same producers. Interesting.
And I'm going to tell you why I started digging into Snoop and Snoop's placement more, because too many people been pulling on us and telling us that we're a Nas channel, and I keep telling people it's like, no, we're just a cultural piece that's really here for everybody that's not getting their proper and their just due. Nas is just the most obvious, blatant, disrespectful case study.
Yeah, he's the most disrespected hip hop icon on the face of the earth.
Ever.
For no reason. So, I won't say for no reason, but unwarranted.
That's not to say that the disrespect isn't going on, and that's not to say that some of our biases that we were raised with haven't been contributing. Snoop is somebody I've been looking at. Like Mike, when I was playing Think About It, I'm like, you know who he sounds like on Think About It? Like rhythmic and timing and flowing wise, he sounds like Rakim on Let the Rhythm Hit Him.
He's going on that record, man.
He sounds like Rakim on Let the Rhythm Hit Him. The song and the fucking album.
And if we factor in
piece words together like that, Mike, how many MCs can piece words together like that?
And you know, people want to talk about artists, not MC. How many of your people can you see go out there and freestyle like Snoop does? The only person we pull out the top 10 that goes out there and just goes off the top of the head is KRS. Yeah.
KRS.
Yeah.
KRS.
And I've seen both of them freestyle together.
The top 10, but KRS is the top 10 guy that can freestyle over.
Like, why do we totally disregard Snoop Dogg's off the top of the head freestyle skills and shit?
And it's been doing it. And you want to know it's funny that you're bringing up KRS. Arsenio Hall, when he first got Snoop on the couch, told him, he's like, KRS-One told me that a real MC knows how to freestyle. Yeah. And Snoop took the crowd into a break. Snoop got up off the couch. Yeah. Snoop got up off the couch right there when put on the spot live by Arsenio Hall and proceeded to grab the mic and do what, Mike?
Freestyle.
Freestyle into commercial.
And diss Eazy-E. I think with Snoop suffers from the fact that he's done it all. And you know what I mean? He's done it for so long. We take him for granted.
That's what it is. When I talk about the East Coast bias, I'm realizing that part of why the East Coast bias exists is because Snoop exists.
Yeah. Snoop's the one that took it from him.
Snoop's the reason that the East Coast bias really exists. That's why they started putting the focus back on lyrics like that. You got to be lyrically nice with it. Because Snoop, record-wise, was crushing these niggas.
Big acknowledge that, too. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, we aren't talking about Snoop's recent work like the KD series. So it doesn't matter that he drops 3 albums in a year if we aren't talking about them. Well, all right, listen, we're not saying that Snoop's better than Nas. So who else you got? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let's get Nas out the way. Who else you got?
Now that we move that, now that we got that out the way.
Right.
Mike, what did I just say 30 minutes ago? I said, when you were like, I was like, well, let's get the people that are clearly, ahead of Snoop out the way. And I said Nas, Jay-Z, Rakim. And what did I do after that?
Everything else is a discussion.
Pause.
Yeah.
Pause.
Melvin Wright with the super chat says Snoop had writers for the first time on his album Ego Trippin'. Who are the writers, guys? And I say that respectfully. I know I got to catch up with some of the
No, stop. When did Ego Trippin' come out?
Ego Trippin'.
2009?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so Snoop from 1991 to 2009 is a top 10 MC. Next.
But even with that, though, who are the writers, man? We need names.
I'm going to name everything. When did
we got reference tracks?
Come out? When did Blue Carpet come out?
Blue Carpet was, what was that, 07 or something?
Oh, yeah. Snoop from 91 to 2009.
DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says Corday has written for Snoop recently. Snoop spoke on it in an interview. I'm not knocking him, though. He has had multiple writers. Okay. Well, what songs did Corday write? That's what I want to know. I want to go to these songs and see if these songs are the reason why we have Snoop so high. You know what I mean? It's different if, it's different if we say Corday wrote What's My Name or Murder Was the Case or something like that. It's like,
Mike, then we'd be having a different discussion. Was Corday alive when those records got made? Because it's not, somebody needs to shut the fuck up about saying Corday Ghost wrote for Snoop Dogg. Y'all know when we're having a Snoop Dogg legacy conversation and y'all talking about Corday wrote for Snoop, like this motherfucker wrote Doggy Dog World or Gin and Juice. Like what the fuck is wrong?
Kendall Outlaw with the super chat says Gangsta Boo Gangsta Boo had the best verse on Crazy Bones. We Starving. With E40 was the worst. Yo, I remember that, man. I remember
Right.
that, and that was a big moment for me because I bought
Throwback.
that Crazy Bone double disc. I was a Super Bone fan and a Super
Sorry to
36
hear that.
fan at the time, and to actually hear Gangsta Boo on that album, I was like, oh shit, they're getting somewhere because that was before Crazy got on Getty Green. So yeah, that was I forgot all about that. We Starving. Yeah, she was flowing on there. She was flowing on Stankonia too. And we're gonna talk about Gangsta Boo. Rest in peace to her.
She did. She was flowing on Call Before I Come.
LP with the super chat says, I posted the link. He's admitted it himself. How y'all arguing with what he's saying? Who, when he wrote something, once you used it, you're disqualified. Okay. So, and KRS-One said this. KRS-One said, if Rakim wrote me a record, I'ma rap it. So, let's just say this hypothetically.
Say that again for the people that didn't hear you in the back.
Yeah, KRS-One said, if Rakim wrote me a record, I'll rap it. It's Rakim. But
It's Rakim.
This is the thing, though, guys. You say you're disqualified after that. So you're telling me, after everything that Rakim, KRS, even Nas has done, if for whatever reason they say, you know what, this kid Corday said he got something for me, let me just rap this. So he's disqualified from a top 10 because he let Corday. Do y'all really think that Snoop Doggy Dogg needed Corday to write him a song? Or do you think he was doing Corday a solid? I mean, real question here. Do y'all think that, this far in Snoop's career, he's like, man, I just need some music. I gotta call Corday. I need this. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Let's be serious, guys. I think that the first person he would probably call as a writer would probably be Kendrick. If it was about that.
Do you understand that this man can literally just say, hey, I'm going to go do a show performing my hits and go make $1 million in like 7 days? You do understand what you're talking about, right? Like when you be talking.
He doesn't have to make
what's going on. Do people understand what's going on? Do you understand how the music business works?
I think the thing with Snoop, though, for real, and I think people get it confused, and this is why people like Kendrick take 5 years to make an album. Snoop's actually having fun with music. You know what I'm saying? And if part of that fun means, oh, I like this guy over here, let's make some music together. Oh, this person has a song that he wrote for me or whatever, let me spit it, whatever. Like, he's not taking himself seriously at this point. He's having fun.
Mike, in this year's edition of Plug Talk, I'm going to tell you the plug's name. So the plug told me, this Taj, her name is Taj. Taj is like, nigga, Nas ain't concerned with showing people that he knows how to rap.
Right.
He made Illmatic, and it was written.
Snoop has nothing to prove on that.
Snoop made The Chronic in Doggy Style.
Yeah.
When you make efforts like that, the whole can I rap thing, can I rap well? That's over after that. You do understand that, right? That's what I mean. It's like, do people understand that it's like what, like, do you understand what he wrote already? Like long before any of this that you're talking about, the ghostwriting, you do understand he wrote The Chronic in Doggy Style. So like Snoop, I was literally on Twitter. It's like, that's literally Thriller and Off the Wall for West Coast hip hop heads. You feel what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? It's like, can Snoop Dogg rap well at a high level? It's like, well, have you listened to The Chronic? Have you listened to Doggy Style? Like 50 million times like the rest of black culture has? Like, you don't got no point to prove when you make albums like that. When you make them early, consecutively, before the age of 25, no, that's not having a conversation about if he can rap. That's why I dropped Think About It. Think About It's 2007. That's him showing you it's like, no, I can rap my ass off.
He wrote that, I'm sure.
Whenever I feel like rapping my ass off, I can rap my ass off because I made The Chronic in Doggy Style. You want, boom, here's some proof.
Matt Max with the super chat says, stop saying Snoop and LL. LL had a major album in the late 80s, early 90s, and the mid-late 90s. Snoop never did anything after Death Row. Now Snoop never dropped a great album again. Hold on, let me read that again. It says Snoop never did that after Death Row. Snoop never dropped a great album again. I think Rhythm and Gangsta and the Blue Carpet Treatment is a very good album.
What everybody keeps talking about these songs. Like name these classic songs that you're all talking about that have been ghostwritten.
That's what I want to know. Like the records that we're actually holding Snoop high for and talking about his longevity for, what did he not write and who wrote them? LP with the
Please.
super chat says, "How's this different from y'all dropping Dre for having ghost producers? He has a whole catalog before the Chronic, yet y'all knock him after having help. Snoop literally admitted to it. How is it disrespect? Okay, this
Well,
is the thing.
hold on. Can we
When it
pause for a
comes to
second?
Dre, we're talking about, and I think I said this on the Patreon, maybe that's why LP didn't get it. I don't know, but Dre's most impressive era to me is 88 to 93. And again, we're talking about, even Yella was around for, the NWA stuff. So Yella helped from a production standpoint as well. And we still say that Dr. Dre is probably the greatest producer ever. At least top 3. We're just having a discussion and saying it's not a hands down thing.
So, and I brought this up on the Patreon, and I'm going to submit it to the larger audience now. How can you have Dr. Dre as arguably the greatest producer of all time, and definitely top 5, top 3 in most people's minds, correct? Mm-hmm. Like in most people's minds, even if you don't have him number 1, he's in your top 3. If he's not in your top 5, it looks like you're being rude and disrespectful. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. The work speaks for itself.
Now, why the fuck is Snoop not getting that same energy when all of Dr. Dre's monumental moments outside of Straight Outta Compton as a producer are really attached to Snoop more than anybody else?
It is.
What are Dr. Dre's?
Like you said earlier, they're the duo. They're the duo.
They're the real duo.
They're the best producer and MC duo.
Best executive produced albums? Well, that would be The Chronic, Doggy Style in 2001. You want to know what those 3 albums have in common?
Right.
Who's the front man on those 3 albums?
Exactly.
Just for anybody who's fucking wondering what Dr. Dre's best work sounds like. Dr. Dre's best work sounds like Snoop Dogg's the front man for the reason that you call him the greatest hip hop producer of all time. So why isn't Snoop getting some greatest MC of all time type of love the way Dr. Dre's getting greatest producer of all time type of love? Because as much as I love me some Get Rich or Die Trying or documentary, it's not fucking with Doggy Style or The Chronic on a good day, on a great day, on a glorious day where the sun is shining. And my top is back.
Just last year.
Again. Motherfuckers.
Cool. Just last year, this Super Bowl that was out in Cali. How did they market that halftime show?
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg.
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Yes, they did. They didn't have Eminem sitting there. It was Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Because that's the duo.
And the rest of you. Yeah. And the rest of you get in where you fit in.
It's Belichick and Brady.
It's supposed to.
It's Belichick and Brady. The rest of you guys are Grunt. The rest of you guys are Edelman. The rest of you guys are Wes Welker. It is what it is.
Right.
So yeah, Randy, if Dr. Dre's that high, we gotta have Snoop high too.
Look, 50 Randy Moss, it's like you had a great season, you don't know how to act, we kicking you off the team.
Yeah. Imagine that halftime show without Snoop's involvement, Coop.
It's not a halftime show without Snoop because those records don't exist without Snoop. Nope. Hello. There's no Dre Day without Snoop. There's no Nothing But a G Thing. Let Me Ride. There's no next episode. There's no Still DRE, which means there's no Dr. Dre single catalog without motherfucking Snoop Dogg.
You just got California Love or something.
Hello, is somebody there? Is anybody hearing what I'm saying?
That's pop song, but yeah.
Let's see, what's the first single off The Chronic?
First single off The Chronic is G-Thing.
Nope, it's Dre Day.
Was it?
It was Dre Day.
Okay.
You know who's on Dre Day, Mike?
I know. Bow Wow Wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
Mike, the lead single to Deep Cover is what? Yeah. I mean, the lead single to, that's what I'm saying. Is like, no, all the Dre shit is built off of Snoop.
Yeah. Dre's solo
and we call him
career.
The greatest producer ever, but Snoop don't get no top 10 consideration?
It's crazy, right? Man,
what we doing out here?
Okay, so let me go further here. Let me go further here for the people that say Dre is number one, and I don't fault that because Dre's production
Take all the
catalog
Snoop
is
records out. Tell
incredible.
me he's number one.
Why are we putting what are the albums are you putting Dre at number 1, 2, or 3, 4? Like, what are the 3 albums? If somebody asks you, like, yo, why is he the best producer ever? What are the 3 albums you're gonna tell them to listen to?
I want to know.
Because you're not gonna tell them to listen to Straight Outta Compton. Let's just keep it a buck.
I want to know what the lead single for The Chronic was before Snoop Dogg came along. Anybody?
Was there one?
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, one of the things on the agenda, Mike, and I'm gonna just tell the people too, because I've been on this whole Snoop kick, and I also told you all too, and I'm gonna do this. Well, Chris the Glove Taylor is still out there, and I said once this Nas run was over, and when the year had wrapped up, and we kind of got resettled, that we would reach out to him to the top of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to hear from the Glove, and so I'm gonna reach out to him tonight via email because he dropped his email on us, and see if we can maybe bring him on. And maybe explain some of maybe the Chronic and how it came to be, since you all are feeling this way about Snoop. Because it's very apparent to me that the Chronic is a collaborative effort. Snoop Dogg's the front man, and this shit's not the same without him and Chris the Glove Taylor's influence either. And so that needs to be notarized and recognized.
We got to give people credit.
Especially seeing how that greatest producer of all time talk, Mike, it never started till the Chronic and Doggy Style.
I was going to say that greatest producer all time talk is centered around the Chronic and Doggy Style in 2001.
Literally the reason it exists.
Yeah.
There was no talk like that before. Straight Outta Compton, No One Can Do It Better, and Niggas for Life did not have him being called the greatest hip hop producer for the time or of all time. The Chronic and Doggy Style did that.
Well, when he won Producer of the Year,
very much looks like Snoop Dogg has a lot to do with Dr. Dre.
Well, when he won Producer of the Year at the 95 Source Awards, Doggy Style had a lot to do with that.
Well, when you sell 5 million records in a calendar year, has it been 365 days you sell 5 million records?
Yeah. Mad Max in the Super Chat says, radio mid-80s, bad. Late 80s, Mama Said Knock You Out. 90s, Mr. Smith, mid-90s, 4321, late or mid-90s. That was late 90s. He says, Snoop don't got it like LL was dominant. I'm sorry. Snoop don't got that. LL was dominant.
Yes, he does.
He made Rakim make Mahogany. LL literally kept a hit till the early 2000s.
And what has Snoop done? So, Deep Cover comes out in hold on. Deep Cover comes out in 1991, right?
Mm-hmm.
When does the Blue Carpet Treatment come out? 2007, right?
Yeah, I think that's 2007.
Okay, that's a 16-year gap. So what the fuck is this nigga talking about that's sitting up here talking about this LL run? Because I'm pretty certain that shit was all over the radio.
Oh, it was.
So was Boss Life.
Yep.
And so was Bato.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's like 4 or 5 records on the Blue Carpet Treatment. How many records was L getting on the radio in year 16, respectfully? Because it wasn't like it was on the Blue Carpet Treatment. People need to know their history before they pull up and start saying these things. That's why we having this conversation, because fam is pulling up and being dismissive about it, and he don't even know his shit. Blue Carpet Treatment done got more runs single-wise than any of L's late shit, including Mr. Smith. Respectfully, because Mr. Smith got Hey Lover, Lounging, and Doing It. Blue Carpet Treatment got more singles than that on it, brother. Get your shit together.
Jay Short with the Super Chat says, this Snoop Ghostwriter argument is the Barry Bonds argument. He was already in the Hall of Fame. The quote-unquote help was for your benefit because you refused to recognize game. Yeah, I mean, again, I struggle to grasp this notion that people feel like Snoop had to call Corday to write for. Y'all don't think he was just doing him a solid or having fun?
Nope.
Like, dang,
Nope.
brother
Snoop
can't have fun?
Snoop doesn't have to record music. Nas doesn't have to record music. Jay doesn't have to record music. They record music because they love recording music at this point. It's not even for financial gain. These niggas probably ain't even making no music money.
Right.
I know Nas ain't making no music money. Taj done told me so.
DJ Bruce Almighty with the Super Chat
You
says,
niggas' fault too. That's the same motherfuckers that's complaining like right now about Snoop. Like they're the problem. They're the reason that these niggas don't make no music money, and these dudes done found all these different endeavors like this because this they fan base. The niggas that try to say like, well, he had ghostwriters in 2009. It's like, nigga, Deep Cover came out in 91.
Yeah, DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, Coop, I'm not debating y'all. I agree. No one wrote Snoop's classics, but y'all asked for names. No, I appreciate the names because I didn't know any of this stuff. He said, there's no problem with ghostwriters. That's why I added, I'm not knocking them. And, this is the thing with the ghostwriter thing. I do think there is an issue if you want to talk about all-time greats and ghostwriter. Like if somebody wrote Dear Mama for Pop, yeah, that's an issue. You know what I'm saying? We gotta kind of take those things into consideration. But if we talk about, and it's funny, man, it's such a it's wild, man, the fact that LL wrote MC Light Self-Destruction verse and no one cares. She's still the female GOAT, right? That's a big, if y'all care about ever having a ghostwriter, that's a big one, right? You're on Self-Destruction talking about Funky Fresh, Dressed to Repress, Ready to Party. And nobody ever holds that against Light. But y'all want to sit here and talk about Cordae writing something for Snoop Dogg in 2018 or something disqualifies his whole catalog? That's wild.
That was the best. And I thought that was the best verse on Self-Destruction. It's one of the reasons why I held Light so high.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to lie. It's one of the reasons I held Light so high. I'm like, yeah, Light smashed the niggas on Self-Destruction.
And we're not going to trip on the fact that Tretch wrote UNITY for Queen Latifah, huh? But y'all want to sit here and talk about Cordae writing some song we don't even know that Snoop made? Like, come on, man.
And the fast word flips in UNITY, I'll let you know that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Listen to UNITY. That's Tretch.
It's definitely Tretch. It's definitely
But
Tretch.
again, we don't give that same smoke to. We pick and choose who we want to give that kind of smoke to.
That's what I mean. We pick and choose who we want to make top 10 MCs, apparently, too. And it'd be mostly East Coast guys that are super lyrical and guys like Snoop who actually. How about this? I wish that Andre had Snoop's catalog because we could say he's the greatest MC of all time and give Nas and Jay some run. You feel me?
And my ears have a theory about Around the Way Girl and about, you know what I'm saying, Jingling Baby remix. They do. Because the producer, Molly Mall, and Juice Crew connection. LL said that BDK is his favorite rapper. I have theories, but again, that doesn't take away from L.
I totally see that.
Yeah. Jay Short with the super chat says, Snoop crushed the building and y'all souls apparently. It was 95. Get over it. Even Raekwon did a song with Snoop, and that was a banger. Jada too. You got to do a song with Snoop. He's a big dog.
Everybody does a song with Snoop. It's Uncle Snoop. It's cool to do a song with Snoop.
36 Chambers with the super chat says Snoop crip walking during the Super Bowl show stole the media outlets. The kind of star power is undeniable, and the style goes a long way too. Yeah, I mean that's interesting you say that because when we talk about star power, does Dre have star power without Snoop?
I think Dre is a star, but is he Snoop? That's what I'm saying.
You think Dre is a star without Snoop, like on the mic?
Yeah, express yourself.
You think Dre is convincing on the mic? I kind of
keep their heads ringing, express yourself. No, he has moments, Mike.
You think so?
I'm not knocking Dre on the mic. I'm telling you, Snoop's the man on the mic.
I think Dre is cool on the mic. I think Dre executes well on the mic. Even, I would say, all right, I know this is going to sound funny, but if you want to talk about who's more of a star and a frontman on the mic between Dre and Puff, I got to say Puff. Now, Puff has star power.
I don't agree.
Oh, no. Puff got star power. Like, you sit there looking, can't nobody hold me down?
I think you're talking about the performances and the looks. If you were to play the music, you would say Dre. Dre has natural born killers.
Dre's a better executor on the mic, yes. But I'm just talking about just being able to take in the audience and stuff. Like, Dre needs Snoop there for that. And I think Puff felt like he needed bass there.
How about this? He's more of a classic producer in that sense, and Puff is more of a maestro. I don't know, like the word is like maestro. It's like Puff eyes and ears are a little different than Dre in terms of the full scene. Dre shit is rooted and the musicality of it being supreme. That's why we fuck with Dre. Dre wants the musicality to be supreme and won't give you less than that for what he has to provide.
I gotta give Puff.
Puff just wants to make you dance and to make a big record.
Puff's quality control is there too, but Puff is an entertainer. He want to make sure you're
Puff's
entertained.
Quality control there?
Huh? What's that?
Puff's quality control there? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
You can't be picking and choosing your quality control. While the Lock's first album ain't a classic.
Well, they just weren't a good fit for them. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. I think when it comes
black
to
nigga from Brooklyn who talks the way that he was talking before Puff is a fit. Right.
He made him a fit. And Big's versatility.
Say that again? He did what?
Well,
that's what I'm telling you.
No.
He can make you a star. Like, you
he
know,
made him
if you really
fit.
Want to.
But we can't discount the versatility that Big had to be able to adapt to everything that Puff was throwing. The Locks just weren't there at that point. They didn't have that level of versatility. He tried to make the Locks, Harlem World Part 2, and that wasn't going to work for them. And they, you know what? Even if we talk about under those circumstances, they got some decent records on there. Now, granted,
they did a good job.
That, you know what? I think that's probably the first Bad Boy album that people could say was sort of a flop, right?
No, how about this? It was the first debut album that you heard where it's like, oh, well, that's not great.
Yeah. They had a decent run, man. Really good run. LP with the super chat says, but he's not being knocked from being in the all-time greats. We're talking about the top 10, and we're splitting hairs. We don't know who wrote what, but we know that he didn't write it all. He said, we got to know what's been written, though. That's the thing, man. We have to know what. We have to know those.
I keep asking people, and nobody's answering the question. Are any of these writers centered around The Chronic, Doggy Style, The Blue Carpet Treatment, The Chronic 2001? Because just respectfully.
Because we also have to acknowledge the fact that Snoop wrote for a lot of other people. So if somebody...
No, we're having a legacy conversation. Yeah. So it's like his legacy stuff that's on the line. Unless y'all are talking about that being like infiltrated by a ghostwriter. Like, this is what I mean about how... This is why rappers have other endeavors, quite frankly.
Well, this is the splitting hairs part of it, right?
Have other endeavors, like right here, because it's like y'all would rather sit up there and try to point out ghostwriters. No, good and damn well ain't no ghostwriters on no Chronic, no Doggy Style, no 2001, no Blue Carpet Treatment, no what's the one with Beautiful on it?
You talking about Rhythm and Gangsta?
Not Rhythm and Gangsta, from the Church to the Palace.
Oh yeah, Church to the Palace. Yeah.
What's that one?
That was the Church to the Palace, I think.
Is that what it's called? The album's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, that album, Rhythm and Gangsta. It's like, where the ghostwriters at for that? Show me the smoke on that.
Well, this
Show
is
me
the thing,
smoke on the No Limit shit.
And we need to dial back, right? We need to dial back.
Who wrote Bitch Please, motherfucker?
Right. We need to dial back. The reason why we care about ghostwriters in these conversations anyway is because we want to prevent someone being elevated that didn't have the ability to make the records that got them elevated in the first place. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, if it happens, disqualified. We want to make sure that the person that's being ranked is deserving of that position and not the person who wrote it for him. You know what I mean? And so in that case, all the things that we hold Snoop high for, unless you guys have writers for those, I don't think Corday writing something in whatever year he wrote it even registers, because we're talking about somebody also who wrote The Chronic for Dr. Dre, who's probably written for a lot of other guys around as well, but he sees it as, you know what, if somebody writes something for me, that's just what we do. We just passing records around because I'm a writer first, right? So it's different if you're talking about, yo, I'm in a funk right now. I can't find any inspiration. Let me go get Quentin Miller to write this whole mixtape for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's different.
It's a respect thing. And so what we have, and now I'm starting to see some of the problem as opposed to our rock stars to our rap stars. And here's what I'm talking about. Snoop shouldn't be questioned about this because we already know what Snoop's pen looks like.
Right.
Imagine, do you know, like, let's use the Rolling Stones for example. My buddy Andrew and I, we just did our first Mirror Music podcast for the year. We did 2 the other day. We just did Ultra Black by Nas and Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones. Now, let's look at somebody like Mick Jagger. I think Andrew was telling me that the Rolling Stones released the album in 2016. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm pretty certain that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards didn't write all those records. Okay? Because it's 2016. I'm pretty certain. I don't have to go check. I'm pretty certain they didn't write all those records. Does that take away from Mick Jagger's all-time greatness as a lead singer and a frontman? Does that take away from Keith Richards as a songwriter and a guitarist? Because in 2016, literally like fucking 55 years after their first hit record, you get what I'm saying? It's like, and so when you're pulling up saying Snoop had ghostwriters, it's like we be so disrespectful so quick. These are conversations that don't happen in other genres about our greats. When they have already made their best work, we know that they have made their best work, and we sitting up here nitpicking, telling we had a ghostwriter in 2009. Bitch, don't nobody care if Snoop had no ghostwriter in 2009. Fuck is wrong with y'all?
I think they'll talk about even later than that. And you know,
what is wrong with y'all for even thinking that that's valid? Like y'all talking like somebody wrote for Snoop in '94. Shut the fuck up.
I think you said it best when you said that we already know what Snoop's pen looks like, right? That's the important part. And you know, even when you talk about somebody as great as Babyface, and I've been very vocal on here where I think that Babyface is probably the greatest songwriter, at least of the past 30, 40 years. We talk about lifetime. Actually writing for others. You know what I mean?
Our lifetime, yes.
Yeah. He actually, I mean, the Neptunes, Pharrell, wrote There You Go for, There She Goes for him. And another song on that album. Does that take away from the fact that Babyface is an incredible writer because Pharrell wrote a song for him one time? Like, come on, man.
I was in a studio in a session one time. It wasn't even a rap session. It was an R&B session. And I gave the singer some bars one time. I was like, yo, say this like this. He was like, yo, fam, that works. I'm going to take that. I was like.
Again, somebody like Babyface could allow Pharrell, early on in Pharrell's career, respectively, to write a song for him. It's not because he needed it.
Rump Shaker, Mike. Rump Shaker, Teddy Riley. Don't Pharrell got writing credits on Rump Shaker?
Yeah.
Anybody saying Teddy Riley ain't the shit because Pharrell wrote something on Rump Shaker?
Yeah. Jay Show with the Super Chat says, respectfully, if you're under 30, you don't know what's popping in the late 90s. You were still at recess. Sit back and learn.
Oh, my God. LP is up in here. Okay, LP. This is what I mean about these extra rap niggas. This motherfucker's up in here talking about.
Hold on, let me get to these super chats. Hold that thought real quick. Melvin Wright with the super chat says.
Bob Dylan. We talking about song. You talking about songwriting. Mick Jagger's a bigger star than Bob Dylan. You talking about songwriting, fam.
Let me get to these super chats real quick. Melvin Wright with the super chat says, I agree with you guys about Snoop 100%. I was just stating the facts. I think RNG is his second best album overall. Me too. And that's Dre is nowhere on it. Yeah. I mean, he's proven that he can make music without Dre. Dre, not so much. Dame252 with the super chat says, are there any rappers from the 2000s in the top 10? If not, who's close? It's a good question. I think Kendrick is probably the closest, in my opinion.
He was.
I don't think his spots have moved too much, but
people have crept up on his spots, though. That's what I mean. He was. Like, there was some distance between him and the competitors from this era. There's not space anymore.
No, there's not the same space.
And based on how I'm feeling, none of them are in the top 10. Do you understand that Kendrick would get, like, he would lose to Snoop in a versus, like, 17-3?
It would be.
And I'm not joking at all when I say that.
36 Chambers with the super chat says, I think that the reason people are pushing back on the top 10 all-time discussion is deep, and this high, and this is why we need to split hairs to weed out the real list. I understand splitting hairs, but I think that we also have to consider that there's not, even the people who are in the top 10 justifiably, line them up 20, 30 records with Snoop Dogg. They're going to be in trouble. It just is what it is. LP with the super chat says, in y'all opinion, if Quentin Miller wrote The Pressure for Nas, does that change anything? No. It's hard for me to say it doesn't. if I'm being fair and objective. It doesn't change anything for me because Quentin Miller didn't write The World Is Yours. Quentin Miller didn't write Silent Murder. Like I
He
don't
didn't read
feel
shit on
like
KD3 either.
I don't feel like when somebody is already made out here that you do one thing 30 years into your career and it changes everything you did 30 years ago. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. It's like there are moments where as an artist in your genre of music where you transcend and you don't come back once you transcend.
Now, let me say this.
Go ahead. No, please.
Now, if hypothetically, because we know this didn't happen, hypothetically, let's say Quentin Miller does write Pressure, and let's say hypothetically, Pressure is Nas's best song ever, then yes, then we need to have some discussions. Or if we find out somebody wrote Made You Look or something, like something that's high level where you're like, oh, that's a game changer. Yeah, we need to talk about that. That's when you could split hairs. But if you can't even name the songs that people are talking about, and these songs ain't even significant in the catalog like that, it's a non-factor.
Well, let's go to the Pressure, the song.
Yeah.
Where does that rank on KD2?
Is
it a top 5 song on KD2?
I don't think so.
So we're not even talking about a top 5 record on maybe his, 5th or 6th best album?
That's being generous. Maybe 7th now.
Right, and it's maybe not even one of his 100 best songs. Is it one of his 100 best songs to you? Because I could probably name you 100 Nas songs better than The Pressure. You feel me?
Wow,
so what are we doing?
Yeah.
I could literally, when a man has a catalog where I could literally give you 100 songs better than this ghostwriting song allegedly that you're talking about. It's just so we don't have this issue in other genres. We don't.
I think what people are hung up on is the actual notion of a ghostwriter as opposed to the actual, results of that ghostwriting. Now, the reason why we say those things about the Drake situation is because that was some of his strongest stuff at that point.
It was his best stuff.
It was really good.
It was his best stuff.
And the only reason why that mixtape's still not heralded is because it got exposed. You know what I mean? Other than that, that's some of his strongest work at that point. And so that's why that became an issue.
Hey, look here. Hey, Mike, I know Wayne is great. I hold some of that Gilly shit against him because that's prime. That's your prime years, and I knock him for that.
I agree. Me too. Now,
ain't no way around it.
You know what? That's a little bit more.
He's all-time great. No, that hurts his case.
No, that's a little bit more valid than people talking about this Snoop stuff because that's Wayne when he actually changed into a contending MC. Yeah,
that's his ascension.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Jay Short with the super chat says, "Exhibit killed, bitch, please." At the time, I think the Source ranked it as a top 10 feature ever, and Snoop still made it his own song without Lyrical Miracle. He did. And I loved Exhibit's verse on there. That song was big for Exhibit, man. That was his breakout moment.
Can you listen to this? Imagine being somebody like a hold on. Listen to what I'm saying. Like, imagine being Prince and you done made Purple Rain and you done made Sign of the Times and you're releasing Diamonds and Pearls in 1992 and somebody's like, Babyface wrote Cream for Prince. It's like, don't nobody care, motherfucker. Don't nobody care about that.
Again, it's only a discussion. Man. It's only a discussion if somebody wrote your best stuff. And I don't want to get people confused because I know people are saying that we're being inconsistent, this, that, and the third. I don't want to get people confused because obviously songwriting for a singer is a lot different than a rapper. And I agree with that. You know what I mean? Like, when you're talking about a singer, you're actually singing notes and you're writing song for somebody's vocal ability. When you're rapping, it's more so about, look, I want to hear the person who actually spit this as opposed to, the person that, I want to hear the person that actually wrote this as opposed to the person that's performing it. But you do have to understand when it comes to unique voices like a Snoop or a Q-Tip, there could be people like a Corday out there. It's like, yo, I want to hear what my shit sounds like in Snoop's voice. And I think that even the Still D.R.E. hook is a great example of that. Jay-Z writing from a standpoint of like, I would love to hear Snoop say this in this way. You know what I mean? But even with all that being said, we know what Snoop's pen game is like, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's like we're never confused about how Snoop Dogg sounds on the mic and what Snoop can give you as an MC and what Snoop can do when the mic's in his hand on some freestyle shit. We're never confused about that. And I think the other part of him being top 10 that we don't consider a lot either, Snoop's one of the best performers ever in hip hop.
I went to his show down here for my birthday some years ago. It's one of the best rap shows I've ever been to. Top 5. It's a top 5 rap show that I've been to. Yes.
Rocket Shot with the Super Chat says Michael only wrote 4 songs on Thriller. But again, Michael has a very, very unique voice. And so, yes, you're going to get some of the best songwriters ever to try to sing you songs because they want to hear Human Nature in Michael's voice. Have y'all heard the demo of Human Nature? Have y'all heard the original singer on it? Sounds nothing like the version that Michael has. You need that. It's different when we're talking about singers. Now, I'll give you that. And my only reason for bringing up Babyface was the fact that Babyface has written for everybody. And even somebody like Babyface had a moment where he was like, yo, it'd be cool or fun to have Pharrell write me a song. He didn't need Pharrell to write him a song. He's Babyface. He could write anything. He wrote the whole fucking Waiting to Exhale soundtrack for everybody on there. Sometimes people who are great artists, who have fun with music, just have fun collaborating and might have somebody write something for them, not because they have to, because they think it'll be fun. That's it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like I said, it's not like somebody wrote Murder Was the Case for Snoop. Now, that's different.
So, right now when I look at it, I say, because this is what I mean. This list needs to be reworked because here, you can't put Jada Kiss and Black Thought and Method Man and those guys ahead of Snoop. You just can't.
You can't. They're better bar for bar MCs than Snoop, yes, but they're not.
Yeah, they're better. They're better lyricists than Snoop.
Exactly. That's a different list. It's a different list.
So when I look at it, Nas, J, Rakim, Ice Cube, Scarface, LL, KRS. After that, what say you?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, and Pac, of course. I'd be forgetting Pac because
Say that again.
Nas, J, Rakim, Ice Cube, Scarface, LL, KRS, Pac. I think those 8 guys. Because here's what they have. They have the impact. They have the lyricism that people are talking about. They have the songs. They have the catalog. If you want to tell me these 8 guys are better than Snoop, I mean, you know how I feel about Ray. You know how you feel about Ghost. How can we put Ray and Ghost ahead of Snoop if we gonna think about this? If the lyrics are just one part of it, and it's an all-encompassing thing, where's Ghost and Ray better? Ghost is a better album maker. Ray is arguably one of the few people that's made something Doggy Style worthy, even it being a contributory effort. Doggy Style is very much a contributory effort in a lot of ways, too.
It is.
You know?
But it's no question on who the star is on that.
Right. And here's the thing. And Taj was even bringing this up when we were talking. She is like, well, Ray got 2 in the top 10 like Snoop, Into the Woo and the Purple Tape. And I was like, well, he do. But Snoop is the star on both of his top 10 albums, as in on The Chronic and on Doggy Style. With Snoop's the star. As much as I love Ray, Ray's your bronze medalist in terms of star power on Into the Wu-Tang because it goes to Meth and Dirty. And some people even feel like Dirty is the star of Into the Wu-Tang, even over Meth at times, and that's arguable. And that's a viable thing too. So
Ray has incarcerated Scarfaces, but then Snoop has Gin and Juice. Who Am I? And Murder Was the Case. And the Shiznit. And it's like, no, it's not the same.
And that's what I mean. Now, here's what Ray has. Now, Ray's second best album, to me, is better than Snoop's second best album, and the same thing for Ghost. You feel me? But have they had the impact as solo artists that this man has had? You feel me?
I continuously bring up LL because I think when it comes to big songs, you have to go to LL and J to even compete with Snoop. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you talk about individual songs, and that's why I struggle with the KRS and Scarface, and even LL to a degree at this point. Now, if you would have asked me in 2000 who was better, I would say LL. But at this point, it's hard for me to just blatantly just say that LL's better than Snoop. It's hard. I mean, I think that the Cube thing, I may lean more towards Cube because of the he has the big records too. I think he has one of the biggest hip hop records ever in Good Day. I think
but I got Cube on this list ahead of Snoop. No, I got Cube.
No. I'm just saying all the people that you named ahead of Snoop, Cube's the one that I can say definitively. But I have to have a discussion about the LL, KRS, and Scarface. I do.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's not just hands down. Like, I mean, if somebody feels that way, fine. But
right? So how about this? So Nas, J, Rakim, Ice Cube, and Tupac are ahead of Snoop, right?
Yeah.
And after that, it's kind of fair game, isn't it?
I think so.
Me too.
I think so.
Because here's the thing: for as much as, and I thought about this. Imagine if Snoop's best album was Cheat Codes or Kiss the Game Goodbye. Or Tikal.
I mean, listen, and I say this respectfully because
you get what I'm saying? So try to flip it around and understand it. It's like, do you know how we would talk about Black Thought if Black Thought had a Chronic, a Doggy Style of 2001 under his belt? How we would talk about Meth? We still talk about Meth sometimes that way just because his contribution. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like we cannot understate it. It's like, man, I love Kiss. We all know Kiss is a better MC lyrically than Snoop. But he doesn't have anything even remotely close to Doggy Style. Like, he's not even, he's a few solar systems away from having something Doggy Style caliber as a solo MC if we being real.
No, you're right. It is what it is.
Ain't no way around that
and that's
shit.
No disrespect, but...
Ain't no disrespect. These are things that factually happen. And this is what I mean about the East Coast bias. It's like, well, Snoop make better records than you niggas, so you niggas want to make it about the rhymes. Mm-mm.
It does seem very convenient in that sense. And again, when we
Pac and Ice Cube are running it around this time too. That's what I'm saying. This whole East Coast bias. It's like, well, who's selling records from 1990 to 1995? Well, Ice Cube's going double platinum. Dr. Dre's going 4 times platinum. Snoop's going 5 times platinum. Tupac over here selling 2, 3, and 4, like literally going up by the millions every time. And niggas over here selling 500,000.
I mean, what people got to understand is, when Pac came over to Death Row, Snoop was the big dog. Was. No pun intended.
Pac's second album got put on hold because Ice Cube was the man, and they was like, no, we think you're going to do some numbers, but Cube got shit on lock, and he's selling so many records right now for a rap artist. We don't want your rap sales to get hurt by the records that he's moving because y'all have similar content and subject matter.
Jay Short with the Super Chat says, so I'm supposed to knock Snoop because Corday wrote a hook for Say It With Your Body on Snoop's 17th album. So we still talking about hooks, guys? See, I'm going to go back. Y'all going to make me go back and do a whole bunch of research and come back on Friday.
Kaya, hold on, Kaya. We all know Pac is not really from NYC. It's really Baltimore.
My God, are we gonna do that today?
No. Hold on. No. Since people want to get it right, it's not NYC. It's really Baltimore.
Are we really gonna do that? New York gonna start claiming MC New York
right.
again?
You see what they're trying to do, but Pac, what's Pac claiming? Pac claims the Bay. Pac claims Cali. Y'all don't get to take.
What did the great Rakim say?
He wouldn't have had that while he was here.
What did the great Rakim say? It ain't where you're from.
It's where you're at.
So ask Pac where he represented. Jamar with the Super Chat says, legends are legends, and Snoop deserves more reverence than he gets. But the top 10 argument has remained pure. Besides hooks, no ghost writing should be allowed at any point in your career. Man. Okay, so again, I want that same smoke for everybody that says that MC Lyte is the GOAT. And I'm just going to keep it real, man. We got to be consistent here. We know that LL wrote verses for Lyte. We know that, some of her brothers wrote some stuff. We know that Trench wrote a lot of that Black Rain album for Queen Latifah. Are we going to do that?
if we're playing those games, Pharrell gave Busta the first 2 bars to pass the Cavassier and bust out the conversation now. Okay. You get what I'm saying? That's how foolish it sounds. It's like Pharrell gave Busta the first couple bars off past the Cavassier. Is that not ghostwriting?
Again, man, why do we not do this for the Lil Kims of the world, man? Like, why do we not? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's whole reference tracks out there for Kim. There's whole reference tracks out. Well, not reference tracks out there for Latifah, but my nigga, you can listen to UNITY and tell that Treach wrote that record. Like, come on, it is what it is. DJ Bruce Almighty says, "Do y'all think that Kanye is top 10 worthy?"
Hold on. Yeah. Michael Jordan was born in Brooklyn. What does he claim?
You
ever heard Michael Jordan ever claim Brooklyn even though it's his birthplace, Mike?
He just goes to New York and lights them up.
Right, but he's not. But he was born in Brooklyn. He's not from Brooklyn. He's from Wilmington, North Carolina. He's from Port City, and he claims North Carolina. So it don't matter where you were born. It's about what you represent. I tell people all the time, it's like, no, I was born in Charlotte, but I was raised on the east side. I went back to the west side because my grandfather sent for me for school and for college. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. People be knowing where they're from. The birth certificate don't mean shit. It's just a landing spot.
Jay Short with the super chat says, can y'all touch on the ageism in hip-hop, especially with radio? I feel like it hurts Snoop and Nas more because they're still active. They don't do that in other games. U2 and Bono can still get radio. Okay. Well, this is my issue, and I've had this issue with those old school, quote-unquote old school formatted radio stations and the fact that it's pretty much a money grab for the record labels, right? They don't support, and we're going to get to this when we talk about Gangsta Boo, too. The issue isn't ageism. The issue is that they don't have these artists under contract anymore. So they're only going to play the stuff that's going to make the labels money. And, you know, labels don't keep hip-hop artists signed after a certain age. After a certain age, hip-hop artists go independent. And when you go independent, radio's not going to play your shit. That's just what it is. Now, the U2s and, Rod Stewart's, these people got record deals for life. They're never without record deals. Now, I will say this, though. It ain't even just a black and white thing in that sense. R&B used to do the same thing where it was like the old school stations that my parents were listening to when I was growing up. If Barry White came out with something new, they would play it. But again, that's because they were still signed to record labels. I don't think it's an ageism thing. I think it's the fact that when hip-hop artists get a certain age, they stop signing to the majors. And when you stop signing to the majors, you ain't getting no radio play.
That's how Hollywood works. Yeah. Hollywood literally tells a woman at a certain age, it's like, no, you're mom now, and your salary is now this. And they're like, what?
And can I keep it real? Because, you know me. I'm a 3-6 fan, man. I've met Gangsta Boo a few times. I got friends that know her really well, knew her really well. When I see somebody like Drake, who has been ripping off Memphis for 10 plus years and never even had Gangsta Boo on any of his efforts, soon as she passes, jumps out the window on some rest in peace, yada yada, queen, legend, yada yada. It lets you know that these major artists, and I don't even want to call them major artists, corporate artists, because they're signed to corporate entities. They can't acknowledge independent artists that are active until they're either dead or damn near dead. You know what I mean? Like, they act like they don't exist. We saw this with Pimp C, where it was like when Pimp C was out here doing his own thing, when he came out, he was very vocal about the fact that these niggas that he did favors for weren't, doing the same thing for him because he was independent with his shit. Or he maybe had limited, major corporate help, but they don't even acknowledge you if you're not signed to the corporate entities. But as soon as you drop dead, rest in peace, Pimp C, then you have all these, Pimp C verses on all these niggas' efforts and this and that. I predict that we're going to get a whole bunch of Gangsta Boo verses, possibly on some Drake efforts, possibly on some Glorilla efforts, that probably wouldn't have been in place, otherwise. And, she stayed independent. She tried to do her independent
The glow shit might have been in place because they were talking, and that's hometown. It's different. I told you I don't have family.
But...
Not Mike. I got family from Tennessee. I got family from the Mound, from Memphis. It's like, no, that's different. So Glow might have got a different look from being from, like,
That was
no,
an
it's
old
different.
text coop, and she is on the song with Glow and Lotto. I think it's Lotto's song, but
Yeah.
she's on the hook though.
I think Glow would have given Gangsta some real love, and it would have been legit.
I disagree with you, and I don't think it's because of her specifically.
No,
I think is when you're an independent artist, a major artist is not allowed to put you on their shit to blow you up. They're just not. Give me an example.
no, that's what I'm just telling. I'm just telling you, Memphis worked different. Home team worked different. Memphis is different. Memphis different.
I hear you, but
Different.
the industry is what it is. Like, you know
And
what I'm
Glow,
saying?
and Glow is really the first like female to come out of Memphis since Gangsta to really like, you know what I'm saying? It's different because of that. Like that's something that the town asking for. You feel me? They're gonna do that for the town if nothing else.
I don't know, man. I mean, I hear you. In theory, it sounds good, but the
Especially,
way
I don't think you're thinking about some of the tenuous circumstances that have happened in Memphis the last couple of years too. It's like, no. That was a great moment for them potentially to help provide some unity in a community that could use some.
I hear you, man, but the major labels don't care about that shit. They
No,
don't.
but I mean, but the major labels can't do so much. You can't stop Glorilla from doing a
Sure
song
you
with Gangsta
can.
Boo.
Sure
No,
you
no,
can.
I mean, not in today's age. That's what I'm saying. Like you say that, Mike, but it's like no, you really can't in today's age.
So when has it happened?
I think Mike, we see instances of it happening all the time. Here's the reality of the matter. Like, these artists don't fuck with these independent artists, not because the label's telling them to, but because their camp is telling them to. That's not the label. Don't put that bullshit off on the label.
It is on the label because
No,
at the
it's
end
on
of
the
the day,
people, Mike.
this is the thing.
The label don't tell these niggas, okay, so you're gonna be in this town, and while you're in this town doing this shows, these are the local artists, and you can't work with them. No, it does not work like
This is the thing, Coop.
It does not work like
This
that
is
at
the
all.
thing. They'll tell them that, yo, you
That's
can
weak-ass
sign
niggas
this
in their
person.
weak-ass camps.
Let's keep it real, Coop. At the end of the day, I mean, we seen it with Pastor Troy back in the day, right? When he was independent, all these guys who used him to get deals, by the time they got deals, they couldn't work with him. Because this is the logic behind it, right?
That's not the label though, Mike. You're talking like it's like some people pulling the strings on the artist. That's not the art. That's not the label. That's the artist and they can't like, well, what's that artist gonna do for you to move these records and to help you do such and such? We can't do that right now. You hot, that person ain't hot. That ain't the label, that's management.
So why
that's
does it take
that's the artist.
But why does
that's
it
Drake.
So why does it take for Gangsta Boo to drop dead to get an acknowledgement from Drake?
Because how does it behoove Drake to work with her, him being who he is while she's alive? If you can show me that, I'll show you a reason that he should fuck with her. But until then, I'm not about to blame the label because here's the reality of the matter. Mike, he got a whole song from crashing a Soulja Boy studio session. Right. Don't tell me that you couldn't do a record with Gangsta Boo. You do what you feel like what's convenient for you when you have certain clout and influence and power. If Drake wanted to enforce a situation and if he wanted to do a record with Gangsta Boo, it would happen.
Well, see, this is the thing, Coop, and this is why I even brought this up in the context of what Jay Short said. At the end of the day, the major labels or the major corporations are the ones that make people like Drake and Glorilla household names, right? You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Yes. What their mindset is this is why you're not getting, a Snoop Dogg independent effort, or let's say even a Nas independent effort on Hot 97. Hot 97 is not going to play any of KD3 because Nas isn't signed to any of the corporations, right? That basically run their rotation. So
I get what you're saying in that regard.
The same thing goes for like, we made somebody like a Glorilla famous. This is counterproductive. These artists going back and giving back to the other artists that don't even have to sign to us to piggyback off of the work that we did. That's how they see it. Because if they didn't see it like that, KD3 would be spinning on Hot 97 right now. If you're not linked in, you're not going to no brunch. You're not, you know what I'm saying? You're not making no records with their artists. You're not. Because they got to clear it. They own these guys.
Is going to these brunches. Most of you guys are black dads. You need to buy some Black Dad Gang hoodies. Since you're not inviting us to the brunch, you need to buy some Black Dad Gang hoodies. No, I'm just joking. No, I get what you're saying. I think
because they got to clear it with the label. You know what I mean? Like, you remember back in the day when you would read like courtesy of Sony or whatever. Yeah.
truthfully and respectfully. So this is what I mean. Let's give an example of something. Now, I know because I've always been a heavy tea leaves reader that when Noriega was doing his first album that came out in 1998, that if I'm not mistaken, he and Nas did 5 records together.
Mm-hmm.
Now all we got was Body in the Trunk.
Right.
Because this is 98. Nas is going double, triple platinum around the time. And they didn't want to stretch him thin sonically away from his records to promote Noriega stuff. So all you get is Body in the Trunk, right? Which, by the way, is fucking brilliant. I love Body in the Trunk. It's one of my favorite Nas features, actually. Like, it's in his top 10 features to me because it's him in storytelling mode, and he's our best storyteller. Now, that's 1998, Mike. And what I'm trying to tell you is that everything that you're saying is true. But what I'm saying is that the way this game works now, and the way things digitally can get released and packaged and put together, is that, no. That song can happen and find its way into the atmosphere if the artist really wants it to, because it's not hard to make it happen. You don't need the label to make it happen, even if you're signed to the label. The access, to quote Future, free bands.
Oh,
you feel me? The access, free bands. So what you're saying might be true about what the label may be telling Drake and how the business and the corporate structure works, because you're totally right. I mean, we just gonna go ahead and say it. Taj is literally telling me there's a certain entity that's very powerful in hip hop that's keeping Nas from doing certain collaborations. I wonder who runs that entity. Exactly. So that's the part of what you're saying that's true. Here's the other part of it. The artists don't have to fucking drop that shit under their name and drop it under anything involving the label in these days and times with how shit digitally works. And then at the end of the day, what the fuck is the record label really about to do if Drake want to do the record anyway? They gonna drop Drake? Okay.
Well,
somebody gonna come pick Drake up real quick, and you gonna look like the fucking fool. And so the artists need to start understanding their power in these days of times where you really have free bands like that.
Well,
like,
you know what? Wait, and I agree with that sentiment when it comes to Drake, right? I agree with that, but Glorilla's not in that position, right? Like, she can't sit there and say, "Yo, I'm gonna do this," or drop me. She's just trying to get on, and I think that's the mentality for a lot of artists when they get on. They're like, "Look, I want to do this, and this, but I ain't trying to rock the boat.
Let me get this money."
Yeah, I'm just trying to get here, and then I'll go do that later. And then by the time later hits, you're done. You know what I mean?
Which they should be doing. But what I'm telling you is that, you can make that song and you can give it some life. Like, and here's what I mean. Even just doing the song and putting the word out about it can apply some pressure. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, that record floating around there in Memphis right now. They got in the studio and did the record. I wonder why we ain't hearing the record. That's what I mean about people understanding their power and applying pressure. I mean, Mike, look at how people are pulling up on us. We're blessed about to be. We've been doing this podcast, Mike, for 33 months now. We've been doing it for 33 months. We're going to celebrate our 3-year anniversary in March of doing this podcast.
On YouTube, I think we've been on YouTube for what? Going on 2 years now, maybe?
It'll be 2 years in the summer that we've been on YouTube. It'll be 3 years total for the podcast this March. I mean, Mike, it's 3 years. It's almost 3 years later, and people are pulling up on us talking about how we change things just because we said something. And so what I'm telling you is, no, the artist is very much capable of saying something and changing things. Somebody pulled up in our Twitter today and tagged me and you and was like, these lists been different since y'all been pulling up and checking these dudes about these lists. And they have been, because they're not getting away with it as much anymore, because there's a faction of the community that has attached themselves to us that's listening for better or for worse. Like, I'm not even going to lie, Mike, Vibe's top 25 list, they are literally some of their descriptions for some of the albums is literally stuff that we've said on this show about some of the albums that they're covering.
I can believe it.
We are literally impacting it. And so don't tell me that we can impact it and somebody like Drake can't. That is totally
we're not under contract either. And so I don't know what those contracts are.
We got some free bands too. We got some free bands too, Mike, for real.
Well, listen, I think that the thing is, when you have people who are under contract giving back to people who aren't under contract for the corporations is counterproductive. That's like,
It's not
I
good
hate to
business.
say it like this. I hate to do slavery correlations, but you're empowering. It's like having a slave that's empowering the free ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in a position to somehow empower the free ones, you have to do that on a sneak. You can't do that all out in public. You
No, that's
can't.
what. But Mike,
You're gonna get
no, everything.
reprimanded for that.
No, we're on the same page. I think maybe we're miscommunicating more than we usually
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying do it on the sneak.
Yeah, and I think that the new
I'm telling
ones.
Drake to do it on the sneak. Don't tell me that you can't do it. You better call Harry and get your ass on the Underground Railroad, then, nigga.
Well, I'm gonna say this. At this point, after he's done Knife Talk and after he's done all this Memphis stuff that's been very Memphis-centric, if I hear a Gangsta Boo verse on one of his shits, at
I'm gonna
this
take
point,
issue.
I'm gonna be very disappointed.
No, I'm gonna take issue too, and we're gonna
Because
call
that's
him out
whack.
for it.
That's
No,
whack.
but this is what I mean.
'Cause-
But this is where we control it. Is that like now that we pulling up about it, it's like, oh, you better not do that.
This is what I would
we
like
don't
to
pull
see in the
up.
future. This is what I would like to see in the future. I think that these artists who are signed to these corporate entities, you need to still give the respect and the collaborative work to the legends that are out here that are active, that are doing it on their own. You know what I'm saying? That needs to still happen. The fact that these major artists act like these independent artists, even if their legends don't exist, that's a problem. And we're seeing it here. Now everybody's jumping out the window. Rest in peace, Gangsta Boo. Rest in peace, Gangsta Boo. She been active. She been active for 15 straight years as an independent artist, and ain't none of y'all work with her.
So let's start putting it on a scale. If I'm sitting up here telling you in 2023 now that there are people out here that are preventing Nas from working with people. This is what I mean about the case study and starting at the top. If it's happening to Nas, what do you think really is happening to Gangsta Boo while she was out here?
Cool.
That's what I keep trying to say about how it's important to start at the top and start trickling it down, because what you have when you mistreat somebody like a Nas at the top is that Gangsta Boo doesn't stand a motherfucking chance, and that's not right and that's not fair.
Yeah. And like your whole work and catalog and everything that you're currently doing and your legacy is disregarded until you know what I'm saying, pass away.
Until
when
you pass away.
People want to bring everything back up. Now she's the queen of the South. Like, I've been saying that stuff like that on this microphone and people have been calling me crazy, whatever. I really hate that it takes something like this for people to be appreciated for the work that they put in this game. Megan Thee Stallion sounds just like Gangsta Boo. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that. Now we'll probably get some sort of acknowledgement of that. Unfortunately, I wish Megan.
That's the collab you need to be worried about.
I wish Megan would have reached out to her and actually done a collaboration with her. Man, I think it's very sad that she didn't give her that. I've never heard. Maybe I could be wrong, but she didn't give her that proper credit and acknowledgement for inspiring part of her style, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can hear Megan, and that's why I like Megan so much, because she reminds me of 2001 Gangsta Boo, and I'd be hard pressed to believe that she's never heard those songs. She studied those songs. You could tell what people listen to. You know what I mean? When you hear it in their style. But I lost my other train of thought. But what I was gonna say on top of that, because it's a whole lot.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I was about to tell you is that, I know we've been kind of talking about Boo. Let's, I got a slide in a second. Let's,
okay.
I wanted to know if you had anything else, because, we kind of just transitioned into the Gangsta Boo to close out, which is what we planned on doing anyway. So I just kind of wanted to, because I seen that you was going, and I know how you feel about, Mike, I know how you feel about 3-6. I know how you feel about Memphis rap scene. I know how you feel about Gangsta Boo. So I know you're partial to this.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you and here's my question to you, I guess, because I do need to get out of here shortly.
Okay.
What do you think Gangsta Boo's legacy should be? I think that just needs to be our last little brief segment before we wrap this up. What should her legacy be? And I'd like to hear it from you, because you are somebody that I think is a viable source of it, because through our discourse over the years of knowing each other for almost 2 decades now, or what I think is actually 2 decades now, 3-6 is part of your life and part of your hip hop experience and upbringing, and part of what I believe influences you and makes you want to be part of this culture. And so I kind of want you to share in your own words, what Gangsta Boo means to you as somebody that grew up loving this scene and where her placement is in the history of hip hop and female MCs, because I think you're a good person to speak about it.
I think that she's extremely underrated. I think that the work that she put together in Inquiring Minds and even Star 69, I mean, it's right there with any female MC, period. And I think that when you come out of the South, especially in that era, people pigeonholed you to just the quote unquote South, Queen of the South, this and that. She was a writer, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I hate to say it like this, but I just brought it up. But not a lot of female MCs, period, didn't have any ghostwriter in sight. She didn't have a ghostwriter in sight. She was in a group with five other guys, made 3 albums with them, got in this game at 15, 16 years old, sounded super comfortable on the mic, veteran, you know, on some classic records. I think that, again, her style inspired the Megans of the world. Her style inspired, I think Crime Mob's approach to even Knuck If You Buck, and how Diamond and Princess have their signature parts on that record, similar to what she did on Tear the Club Up. I think that, some of the fact that 3-6 had such an independent approach might have hurt her overall legacy in that sense, as far as not being mentioned. And that's why I bring up the whole corporate entity thing. But the impact is still there, and people who know. And you could tell that somebody like a Megan grew up listening to Gangsta Boo. Now, unfortunately, it seems like when you sign to a major entity, you can't acknowledge those individuals who did it in that way. And I think it's very important that you bring up Nas. We just saw what Nas did with KD3. He gave you everything as far as commercial viability. He's from New York City. He's a New York legend. He's a hip-hop legend. Hot 97 didn't play any of those records on that album. And so I think her legacy, I guess, would be an underground queen. But what we need to do in hip-hop at this point, these major artists or these corporately owned artists, I hate to say it like that, but it seems like that.
Say it. Say it.
They can't continue to let these corporations allow them to disregard the people who built the foundation for them and are still working. Like, we're in a digital era now where everybody should be able to, basically be on one page. And that's why it's so important, man. Like, people like Hit Boy shouting us out. Like, nobody does that. Like, I'm sure everybody's watching, but the fact that you have somebody who is at Hit Boy's level, who acknowledges that stuff doesn't happen all the time. You know what I mean?
So let me give you some proof to life. First of all, everything that I thought that you would say, you did say, and thank you for saying it, because it needed to be said. Let's talk about, and here's what I mean about how we impact the culture. I pulled up on Matt today from the Yardies.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Matt.
And he said, the homie Matt doing good. We had lunch together today. He bought me lunch too. Matt don't never buy nobody shit. So I took that as like a real blessing. He was happy to see me. But two things, and I'll leave you with this. Like, everything that you said was beautiful, well said, well stated, and needed to be said. I hope the artists who are actually listening to us that like to give us vitriol for, maybe not holding them in the highest regard at certain times, where they like to take this message maybe more and run with it even than more of my diatribes and even some of your diatribes. But Matt submitted a couple things to me. First of all, when we're sitting out on his balcony, he's like, I seen the nigga Hit Boy shouted you out. He said, that's big. Niggas don't do that.
Exactly. They don't.
He said, if niggas would have shouted me out like that for the work that me and my little brother did, I'd probably still be making beats.
And that's where I'm coming from with what I'm saying as far as, Gangsta Boo not getting the proper placement.
Matt spoke proof to life to it today, because he was the next thing that he told me. He was like, you seen who on the list that got to go up against Thug, right? I was like, yep. He was like, if I don't get out, there's a chance that I'm on that list, because I'm making records for dudes that's on that list. I'm in the studio. I got Lil Bro with me too. He's like, you know how much our life could have changed just in this moment today? with that being handed
But
down,
they
that's
know
part of
that.
why I want to see him too. You know what I'm saying?
They
Because
know that.
people he been in the yo with.
Yeah. They know that. They know that once you get to a certain level, and and I know Drake's the poster child for this because a Drake feature could change an artist's whole career. But one shout out or one tweet from an artist that has millions of real fans, that could change a podcast, a producer or artist forever, and they know that. And a resurgence of somebody like an artist that people just aren't that familiar with. Let's just say like a Skinny Pimp or something, just to be, just for example. If Skinny Pimp was still active, whatever, and somebody didn't know Skinny Pimp in this current generation, and an artist that they know, like an ASAP, does a record with him or something, that's a whole resurgence. But see, they
Right.
know that. You know what I mean? And that should happen more.
But this is the culture part of it too. Like, so I'm sitting down at the crib and the nigga just tell me, he's like, Nas and Hit Boy fuck with you. He said, that's better than money in rap, nigga.
I mean, respect, and respect to Hit Boy,
That's
like I
better
said, for the
than
people
money
reaching
in
out.
rap. He was like, you got a shout out from Hit Boy? He's like, you're telling me that you talk on a thread with Nas's marketing and production manager for music? I was like, yeah. He was like, fuck that other shit. He's like, do that shit, my nigga. He's like, I ain't getting no shout out. And I know the niggas that he knows. Like one of the, like, I don't think you know, Mike, Mike, Matt done had Gunna on a record that he's produced.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Gunna's on the hook. Like they know fam, so it's like, oh, okay.
Let me get to some of these super chats before you slide.
And this is a producer who was trained by Dallas Austin in Dallas Austin's studio. This ain't no regular nigga that's telling me this today when I'm in his crib. Like my nigga Matt ain't no regular dude.
I'm gonna get to these super chats before you slide. Let me see what people got to say. Kendall Outlaw says, "Coop, you left Biggie off your top 10. Why?"
No, that's what I'm saying is that we're gonna have to start addressing that because it's like
we got to start addressing the catalog.
But when Biggie died in 1997, y'all, it's 2022. Think about the records that Jay and Nas and even Rakim and KRS-One and Cool G, like think about all the people that were already in the conversation with him and what they've done in the 25 years since. And that's what I mean. It's kind of one of those conversations where it's like, no, it's like there needs to be a forever list and he needs to be part of the forever list, but not with maybe necessarily a number attached to it, because that kind of makes, and this is what I mean, he's where the conversation gets murky, and that's what I mean. Well, just asterisk that and let everybody in, because it's like people going to be like, well, he got Ready to Die and Life After Death, so and Snoop ain't got 2 albums that good, so how you going to have Snoop ahead of him? Right. It's that shit.
T Nitty with the super chat says Pac said that he was from NY at the MTV Awards interview. Yes, he did. West Coast.
But how many times has he claimed the West Coast? Y'all talking about one time?
He got a song called "Live and Die in New York."
He got a song called California. He got New York Love.
I ain't heard it. They might have it on those underground bootleg.
I believe he says at the end of California Love, let's show how these fools how we do it on the west side, because you and I know that it's the best side. Does that sound like a nigga that's claiming the Bronx?
Jay Short says, did Coop infer that Rock Nation is blackballing Nas? No, Coop didn't say that.
I'm going to say less.
How many more minutes you got? Because there's one other thing.
I mean, I need to slide like now if need be, but I got like 2 minutes to spare.
2 minutes. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson slid 61 spots on Rolling Stone's top 200 singers list.
2 minutes.
In 2010, he was number 25, and in 2022, I guess 23 now. Sorry, he's number 86. Michael Jackson slid 61 spots on Rolling Stone's list in death. And I think I read the little piece of the article, and they basically said something along the lines of, knowing Michael's troubled past, the music doesn't sound the same as it once did. Now, what do we know about Michael Jackson in 2023 that we didn't know in 2010?
We know some white people are going to keep on acting like white people about Michael Jackson. That's what we know.
I feel like there's an attempt to erase Michael Jackson out here. And, unfortunately, people ain't going for it. Unfortunately for them, rather. People ain't going for it. And Rolling Stone continues to lose credibility. I want to invite Will Dukes on here from Rolling Stone. You know, Will Dukes, you guys lit him up on Twitter, and you know he was a good sport about it. He was talking, he was telling people thank you for reading my article or whatever. I want to talk to Will Dukes. I want to know how these decisions, come about. Because you and I, when we put together lists, people see us talk about it. They know who's talking about it. We bring people into the conversation. Who was in the room and said, you know what, Michael Jackson is the 86th best singer of all time? And Elvis is 17.
First of all, Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me.
I'm gonna say something semi-controversial. I'm gonna say something semi-controversial.
No. Let me be serious because I do have to slide.
Yeah.
How disrespectful can you be? This is what I mean about checking shit at the top, Mike.
Yeah.
Let's step out of this hip hop and Nas foray and let's step all the way to the motherfucking top of the ladder, which is where Michael Jackson resides like forever.
Yeah. Is nobody bigger?
There's 15 singers better than Michael Jackson. Just so we're clear. If I was rating him accurately and fairly, he would be in my top 15 easy.
Yeah.
Just because the agility of his voice, is something. I think this is what they did, a power voice list.
And I don't think that's it, because Elvis is 17.
Power voice list of Minnie Riperton and Denise Williams would have made the list.
Yeah.
So it's the power voice list of the people that you know, but they don't know shit, Mike. But we all know Michael Jackson. Ain't nobody with half a brain, with half. Like you could literally have half. Like the right side couldn't work, but if the left side worked, you would know when you hear Michael Jackson come on the mic and sing "Rock with You." I can't help it. You know what I'm saying?
Human nature.
Like, what do you make me feel? You Are Not Alone, written by that nasty bastard R. Kelly. You nasty bastard.
Michael Jackson was a better singer than Elvis when he was 11 years old. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm being real.
He was a better singer than Elvis at the talent show in Gary, Indiana when he was 7.
Yeah. The kid that's singing on I'll Be There is a better singer than Elvis ever was.
Period. I like to quote Dave Chappelle. He made Thriller.
Well, yeah. I mean, even before he did any of that, he was a better singer you factor in his childhood career, factoring in with his adult career. Come on, man.
So that's all I have to say about that.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, though, you're not going to erase Michael Jackson. I mean, nobody's falling for
if they could take Michael Jackson's dead body and put it on trial to try to desecrate him some more, they would. That's
what they're trying to do, essentially. You drop 61 spots in death? What? What new has been discovered?
Hold on. But Elvis ain't dropped in death. I bet you John Lennon ain't dropped in death.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't dropped at all. You know what I mean? And the thing is, man, I'm just keep it all the way 100. Justin Timberlake's better than Elvis.
He need to go for and say some very hurtful things.
He is. Justin Timberlake's a better singer than Elvis, a better artist than Elvis. When I go back and look at Elvis's career, man, Elvis was fraudulent.
Definitely love Gone by NSYNC. Definitely Justin on the vocals.
Justin Timberlake's a better artist than Elvis Presley. Sorry.
Well, there's Rock Your Body and Cry Me a River too. Love some Rock Your Body.
I mean, if we keep it all the way 100, Elvis's music career was 56 to maybe 58. Then he went to the Army, and when he came back, he did movies for 10 years. And then he went to Vegas, and then he passed away. That's his career.
I don't know. There were cocaine and bitches too. But that's another
as far as original music.
Music. Right. No, I figure if we're going to shit on Mike, we need to talk about Elvis' pill problem and his cocaine addiction and him marrying girls that are like 13, 14 years old with his pedophile first R. Kelly ass. How about that?
Now our video's
we want to talk about Mike.
Now our video's going to
get... All right, I think it's time to go for Cookie.
Yeah, now it's time to go. Our video's going to get flagged for saying that about Elvis. But it is what it is. It's real. Right. But yes.
How old was Priscilla when he married her? Okay, I'm going to say less. All right.
I'm going to say this before we leave, though. What these publications are doing with this type of biased journalism and trying to desecrate artists that, are beloved and that earn their keep out here, you're losing credibility. Nobody's looking at Rolling Stone and saying, yo, they're right. Michael Jackson is the 86 best. No, people are looking at Rolling Stone like, yo, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You're out of touch, and you guys are washed.
They just need to talk about Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis the same way they talk about Mike. Nasty bastards.
There it is. All right.
Gotta go.
Friday, guys.